voice of the Cayman Islands, Radio Cayman.
Shining down from above.
We love our listeners.
Radio Cayman in the Cayman Islands.
Oh, I think they're doing a great job. A lot of them are.
Good afternoon, Dwayne. How are you?
Not too bad, sir.
Ladies and gentlemen,
Radio Cayman's Talk Today with Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
But I do have some questions.
There are more questions than answers.
Radio Cayman's Talk Today.
If you're ready to talk, we're willing to listen.
Well, I really enjoy this program today.
Cayman Islands foremost listeners participation program.
May God bless every person.
Hey, good afternoon and welcome. Thank you so much for joining us on this fantastic Friday's edition of Talk Today. I have my excellent friend, Mr. Patrick Schmid, joining me today. Patrick, are you there, my friend?
Yes, sir. Reading you loud and clear.
All right. Well, listen to our listeners. You got the brain of Patrick. You've got the smooth operator of Miss Susan standing by to take your calls. Let's engage into some meaningful discourse and dialogue and instill in our community something to talk about. So stay tuned for Talk Today.
Talk Today is brought to you by Fidelity Bank. For all your banking needs, visit fidelitygroup.com. Fidelity, we're good for you.
Also brought to you by greenturtle.ky. Take a ride on the Green Turtle Express today. Download the Green Turtle app. The future of mobile. Saving lives today.
Radio Cayman's Talk Today, the Cayman Islands foremost listeners participation program. We ask our listeners to avoid statements or comments which are abusive, derogatory, malicious, or defamatory. Do not use any indecent language or make any statement which is false or misleading. Email talktoday@candw.ky or call 1-800-534-8255.
Courtesy of Flow.
Cayman's #1 network that connects you to your world like never before.
Let your voice be heard. Once again, here's your host, Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Hey, good afternoon and welcome to our Friday's edition of Talk Today, 9498037. If you're not a Flow subscriber, but you call us on the toll-free line at 1-800-534-8255. We're trying the thing using our technology and leveraging all the bandwidth and the networking capabilities we have, not just to social distance, but to be able to take us into the next realm. Mr. Schmid, again, a pleasant good afternoon to you.
And to you, sir. I noticed that you don't describe yourself when you're paying all those compliments out. So I thought I should say, what is it that comes before Sterling? I don't think there's anything. So is Sterling the new platinum?
No, when it's Sterling, it's at the pinnacle, So we aspire always to, a standard of excellence. But no, thank you for sharing it. And with that, I'll just say that for me, it's always about trying to be positive, to be sincere, to be gracious, to be respectful, but never false. And I know that there are some people who are still very uncomfortable when they receive a compliment, whether it's your spouse, even your children, your parents, your co-workers, your neighbor, because they're so accustomed. We have become so false, right, in saying things to people that when they hear something, they go, "Oh, what you want now?" Right? And then perhaps equally, we have been so beaten and battered over the centuries that we no longer, are able to receive something positive and productive and complimentary that is offered by somebody else in a very sincere, meaningful, timely way. For instance, you did something, it was a great job, everybody appreciated it, and people say, "Man, thank you, man, that meant the world to me. You were a lifesaver, you were God saying, you were such a caring person." We say all these things that are true at that time, and people, they shrug away. I used to do it. Now, I say that to ask a couple of things, right? First off, to invite, the general public, in particular on Fridays, but every day, to give thanks, and in all things to give thanks. But today, we start off, in a sort of an introduction an initiative that sort of has found its way, through the system. We may recall some weeks ago the Honorable Health Minister made a comment that come tomorrow and talk today will be, highlighting the frontline staff. But it was a comment that emanated from, a good friend Ray, and then moved up through the chain, and then, we'll get there. But I want us to start to appreciate in our society the importance of always being honest, sincere, genuine, being true to thine own self, be true, but to check, when people aren't doing things right, so hold them accountable, but to be quick to compliment. What does the scripture tells us? Discipline in private, but compliment in public. And with that, we look at the Legislative Assembly, and I want to maybe mention that. But this notion that we don't always say good things when we want to, when we should, to people that are deserving, is most unfortunate, I think. What sayest thou, my good friend?
Yeah, I mean, I of course I agree with you. I think that, as I'm sure you'd appreciate it, there are many elements as to why people don't always say compliments, or perhaps why they don't take compliments so well. And you mentioned quite a few of them, but to take the to take the other perspective, so to speak, I think that culturally, certainly in Western culture, and in particular with respect to men, we don't take compliments very well. We're not quite sure what to do with them. And as you say, there's always that element of doubt as well. But being relatively modest people, and certainly it applies here in Cayman, we're not that great at accepting compliments. And certainly there are times when we should consciously make an effort to give compliments more freely, because there are a lot of people who, especially in light of the current efforts being made, who definitely deserve to be complimented and thanked for their
Exactly. Yeah, and thank you for that too. But I'll add, if you allow me, and I would invite you specifically, because I think as an individual, I always want to be as best as I can be. Uh, whether we subscribe to Maslow's theory of hierarchy, or whether we were influenced by the U.S. military's sort of adverts way back when, be all you can be. You remember that?
Right.
But I tell you that I have something that I have discovered on a personal level. Sadly, it may have, no, not may have, it's probably because still naive, no matter how old you get, you're still naive, and you still don't assume, and you still believe that people are genuine and so on. Right? So on the show, deliberately so, right? As a result of a training session I did probably almost 20 years ago that talked about how do you manage a team? How do you get more out of your colleagues? It's by motivation, right? You can take the stick and you can beat them, or you can falsely try to promise them and mislead them, and at some point you'll get caught out. So the best thing is be genuine, be sincere, be truthful, right? So this training showed us how compliments, genuine, meaningful, timely comments that are complimentary, that are truthful, how they actually work, with your co-workers, right? What is it? You catch more flies with honey? Well, sort of the same thing, right? So understanding that, and a simple test, I'll ask you and anybody else who want to try it. Your very best, closest, most, personal, perhaps the dearest person to you, parent, spouse, sibling, whomever, right? Sit down with them this evening and ask that person, write down 10 things about me that you like, and see how long it'll take them, right? And then ask them, okay, give them a minute, 30 seconds. And in that same timeline, or even half that timeline, say, okay, write down 100 things about me you don't like, and you will probably have to stop them, right? They'll struggle with finding the 10 good things, but they won't have the end to the list of the things they don't like. Now, why is that, right? So with that in mind, I I'm very careful how I say that, because I want it to be not just cogent and coherent and concise, but I wanted people to understand that it's said with a sincerity and a heaviness of heart. On the show, male and female, I'll offer up good words, whether it's to the politician or whether it's to somebody else, right? And there are some people in our community that would deliberately and maliciously, misconstrue that to malign, or you have some ulterior motive, right? So even though it's said to young and old, male and female, they have this disparaging view. Now, is it because they can see through, concrete, or is it they just have, like many of us, a sinful nature? I begin to wonder, but time shall tell. What do you think?
Yeah, I think that well first I just want to take a step back and say that Ms. Susan started out the thanks to the frontline workers just from earlier this morning. I don't know if you heard it, but she played
Yeah, yeah.
a song just released thanking the frontline workers. A very nice song. And but that aside, with respect specifically to what you are saying, I think that we here in Cayman in particular, the tradition was that if you had nothing good to say, then don't say it. But that has unfortunately changed. That has changed quite significantly, and I'm not sure as to why what all of the reasons are why it has changed. But certainly, if people pay you a compliment and then they do not follow through with actions which prove that they actually meant what they said, then people become very dubious. But on the other hand, if you are complimented and the actions speak truly to the compliment, people who do their best all the time and go above the call of duty, they'll be encouraged to keep on keeping on, and that really makes a huge difference in the way our society functions.
Indeed. Ms. Susan, paying attention to, by all means, do what you normally do and, whisper in my ear and tell me when you want to take us a break. Because I believe, Patrick, that this is a time that more than ever that we need to show our best and brightest side of humanity to ensure that whatever thoughts that we may have, that they don't beat us down, but instead they encourage and nurture us, our spirit, and others. But they set the tone and an example for what this thing is going to be when we come out the other side. And equally, that we look at those in positions of authority, whether it's the parent, whether it's the politician, the police officer, the school principal, or that proprietor of some business that we've determined is essential, that they don't wield such a heavy stick, that we are now subjected to not just abridged freedoms and movements, but we are now so conditioned and controlled that we are no longer able to enjoy a sense of true humanity, true humility, but more important, a great sense of community, and it is sad that we look at what is happening now and there is not enough constructive critique by the scientists, the researcher, the academic, the man in the street who would normally comment not just to the politician, but to everybody about, well, why are we doing this? Could we also do that? Why is for instance, we have to be safe or, we have to have business. Why can't we have both? All right. So we're going to pause, Mr. Schmidt. We're going to take a break. For those who are listening, are you encouraged? Are you motivated? Are you prepared to share in our conversation? Well, the phone lines are open. So join us. Stay tuned.
Social distancing is crucial for our community to get back to normal. And never before has communication been so crucial. Keeping in touch with family, friends, and up to date requires you to stay in touch. Green Turtle offers the solution for both. Download the Green Turtle app now. Top up yours or a loved one's phone with any mobile carrier in any destination in Cayman. Phones delivered to your home, and with the new rewards program, you can even redeem points towards a new phone and other products. Download the Green Turtle app today. Green Turtle is not only the future of mobile, but today it can help save a life. Hashtag Stay Home Cayman. Take a ride on the Green Turtle Express today. Download the Green Turtle app. The future of mobile, saving lives today.
Bring a little bit of luck to your house with Lucky Slice from America.
burgers, steak, and the all-day American breakfast. From Europe, fish and chips, pizza and crepes, and from Asia, sushi.
Breakfast, lunch, or dinner, 7 days a week, delivery or pickup, 10 a.m. to 10 p.m. In these difficult times, we can all use a little bit of luck. Keep calm and stay lucky.
Minimize contact. Make your credit card payment by phone. Pay only for food. No delivery fee. No service charge. Certain restrictions apply. Call Lucky Slice Pizza to place your delivery order now. 949-3456.
Order from Cayman Creperie, Mojo Sushi, and Lucky Slice Pizza. Call 949-3456.
Did you know that ValueMed Pharmacy has a free online prescription service? Managing your health and medical requirements has never been easier with ValueMed. Simply visit value-medpharmacy.com. That's VALU-medpharmacy.com and click the Refill Prescriptions tab on our website. Fill in the information for new prescriptions or refills and choose your preferred pickup location. ValueMed on Walkers Road or Town. Then bring in your original prescription from your doctor when picking up. There's no need to stand in line and wait for your prescription. Save time and pick up prescriptions at your convenience by visiting value-medpharmacy.com. That's VALU-medpharmacy.com.
Hello, Cayman. I'm Quincy Brown. Anybody else getting mixed up with all these new coronavirus terms? Me too. But guess what? I've watched the press conferences and I've read the press releases and I've seen all the social media posts. Look here, I can help you out. Stay home. Leave Granny alone. Darling child, I mean, we can't be visiting our old people because they're more compromised. We gotta keep them safe. Anna got it now? If Anna want to stay up to the time with what's going on, there's only one place for the real information, the Cayman Islands government. Visit gov.ky/coronavirus. Now remember, keep washing your hands, keep following the rules, and keep taking care of each other. Saving lives is Caymankind.
Talk today. But I do have some questions. Talk today.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners participation program.
Talk today.
Because there are more questions than answers.
What the public is saying.
Waiting to take your calls right now. Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Hey, good afternoon and welcome back. Thank you for joining us. We are, doing this thing remotely. We have the excellent, sort of supervision and guidance of Miss Susan in the studio, not only to make sure it works, but to take your calls as we invite you to share with us 949-8037. If you're a non-Flow subscriber, that's the number to call. Otherwise, if you're able to, please dial us on the toll-free line with the compliments of Flow at 1-800-534-8255. And then the WhatsApp is 925-3261. On the other line, joining me, with excellent contribution as usual, Mr. Patrick Schmid. Hey, Patrick, again, I keep saying it, man. Thank you very much for just being you, but being here today with us as well.
My pleasure.
Yeah, if I could, well, before I go on, we went to the break and I was into, make sure it's not remiss of me. Is there anything that you wanted to maybe add or say before I sort of continue down this path? I'm sort of taking a drive through the Bacchus Dikes, in my mind. So, you can hop in if you want.
Okay. Well, I'm cognizant of the fact that we're all in remote locations, so I'm trying not to cause any interruptions in the technology, especially since I don't know anything about it. But
that's okay, man. You're like most people,
I'm trying my best to learn, but it's a big learning curve. Excuse me.
So we have Susan where she is, man.
Exactly. Thank God for the Susan. I think that certainly I would like to say two things. Firstly, that we definitely have a lot of people, and we've sent that are working very hard to make things as easy as possible and as normal as possible. And I think that kudos to everybody at the Health Services Authority, to various other health facilities that are working hard to ensure that people get their regular health services as well as attend to the necessities brought on by this pandemic. And thanks to all the many other people that play important roles, especially the various civil servants that are contributing so much to keeping things going. I know that there's a great deal of, at least I feel that there's a great deal of anxiety amongst people, not just because of the threat of the pandemic, but also, and this is the second aspect of what I wanted to say, but also because of the fact that circumstances are so different and difficult right now. And so if there's a word of encouragement or suggestion I'd like to put forward, it would be that I would like to encourage our leaders to keep doing a great job, but keep their minds open as to the possibilities of constant adjustments as we get to know more and more about the pandemic, so as to give our populace a break from some of the things that perhaps we may have been very, very careful with in the beginning and now don't need as much restriction, or different ways that we could change things around so that people don't become so frustrated that they start to do things from anxiety rather than from careful thought. So that would be what I would put forward.
You know what? Thank you for sharing that, because as I've been doing, probably like so many of us, whether it's reading or whether we're looking at it in some other way to get information and try to distill that information. Now, thankfully, my friends know that I prefer to read than to watch a video, right? So they've been sending me stuff. The only thing I've said to them, as I say to the general public, read, analyze, and share. And so if you're sending me stuff, hey, have a look at this, but be in fact, be sufficient and courageous and motivated enough to do a little critique, a little analysis. I read this article from the Economist's particular publication or otherwise. It was a news account, and this is what was said. This is what I think. We need to get to that point, because we're asking our teachers, when they're instructing our very young students, not just our college students, but our primary school students, to become critical thinkers. Where you can't think if you're not willing to critique and analyze and comment, right? With that in mind, could I take along what you just shared just then in relation to the sort of cooperative spirit we're seeing amongst our physicians across public and private sector? Maybe we'll see this thing now being the new norm. One of the other potential very positive outcomes of this ordeal, in that we'll see the level of cooperation, not just referrals, but collaboration, so that the patient at the end of the day and the quality of health care and our health system is now at the pinnacle. And it's not just the envy of the world, but it sets an example, and it's something that others can borrow to improve their own systems. So as we collaborate locally, their colleagues can reach out to their colleagues globally, and we improve the health and well-being of all citizens everywhere, right? Look, think of the knock-on effects that would do for our society when it comes to, for example, growing our population. The business wants to attract and retain the best and the brightest in the tech sector, in the health services, in finance, in wherever. And the person who is looking at accepting a job offer from a company, based in Cayman versus a company based elsewhere, I know is going to be looking at what's the educational level, what is the healthcare system like, especially that person has a spouse, and especially if they have children. So why don't we raise the bar and look at the benefits that will come? I mean, would seem to make sense, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think obviously this urgency of this pandemic has caused Cayman to take a great deal of leaps, and most of the positive leaps forward from what I can see, especially in relation to the provision of health services. That's on the positive side. At the same time, I think we also, in fact, I know a number of the senior persons leading the charge, so to speak, have made reference to the fact that they have observed other countries and tried to garner the positive and try to eliminate the negative. But going into the pandemic, when you look at the numbers, you will see that there are certain countries who, although they had high rates of infection because of their sheer size, the number of borders they share with other countries, and so on and so forth, their health systems were significantly more prepared to deal with the pandemic than ours was. That is in part because of the fact that we probably haven't had a pandemic to deal with before. But and please correct me if I'm wrong, but I mean, I was reading where, for example, the relative success in Germany, despite the high rates of infection, has come about by and large, and the same applies to Switzerland and some other countries as well, but by and large, because of the fact that they had such a high proportion of, for example, intensive care beds, ventilators, and doctors and nurses per capita by comparison to all their neighbors, and so those are important lessons that we can also learn. And at the same time, I have to say that, and I'm playing a little bit of devil's advocate, but I'm being completely honest with you. I have to say that I'm not sure that after just like after Ivan, and granted that's completely different, but the nature of the human remains the same. When things are tough for all of us, there is a natural tendency to band together. But as soon as that problem disappears, then I'm not so sure that we're going to have the capacity to work together in the same way, because humans are inherently individualistic frequently. Not always, but frequently. And so I don't necessarily share that belief that we'll be able to hold it together as closely as we're doing so now.
You're right. I mean, look at the amount of people. Not just the person who rarely or if ever went to church, but even the frequent, church goer. They prayed more, right? So it's only like you said, when times are tough and you kind of get down like there, you reach out for help and you pray. So when things are now the way they are, we're all good and nice and appreciative and so on. But like after Ivan, when it gets back up and running again, would we remember what we were like when we were so desperate, when we were so despondent, when we were so, had such a sense of despair? Or are we going to say, oh, money flowing now, boy, I can come and go as I want? Now, with that in mind, right, if the Legislative Assembly members, would forgive me giving them a compliment, I was so proud, right, when I heard so many people reach out. I mean, just what they shared with me, to say, listen, tell the members of the Legislative Assembly that what they saw on the first day of the proceedings in terms of the civil, cordial, not just compassionate, but actually mature way in which they were going about the business of the Legislative Assembly, they felt proud. Now, it doesn't mean, as one gentleman said, doesn't mean that they never get into a debate going forward about whether the government should do this and do it, or do that, or do it this way. But you can still disagree in a civilized, responsible, respectable way. So again, maybe one of the new norms of this thing would be that the behavior of our leadership is going to be so elevated, right, that we're going to be, again, proud, of our public profile. Mr. Schmidt, we have a caller joining us, sir. Let's go to our phones. Hey, good afternoon and welcome. Thank you for calling. Good afternoon, welcome. Thanks for sharing with us today.
Join in on this.
How are you, sir?
All right.
Okay, we do have the caller, bits and pieces. Now, we're leveraging technology, and I'm so gracious that it works. And then maybe I jinxed it when I said that. Are you able to hear us, sir?
Well, I can hear you, yeah, and I guess I can hear Patrick.
Okay. Mr. Schmidt, are you able to hear the caller?
Oh, yes.
Okay, and I can't.
I can hear him.
Miss Susan, I'm not hearing the caller, ma'am. Sorry about that.
It's Mr. Banks. He doesn't want you to hear him.
Oh, okay. Well, that's okay. I'll just go over to his house now.
Well, you got it squared away yet or not?
There you go. I got it squared away. I can hear you now, sir.
Okay, yeah. Patrick was saying, and I think the gist of what he was saying was just keeping up with that all is transpiring within the confines or the envelope of this coronavirus virus. And I don't know whether you picked up on. There was a study yesterday that was released was during the U.S. Their general informational press conference. Actually, it was done by, I think, a research arm of the national, one of the, anyway, having to do with border control and so forth and so on. But it dealt with the effects of humidity and sunlight on the virus, and it was amazing what and this was a study that they have conducted over the last I think 4 or 5 weeks. But if it cannot survive in sunlight, what they were saying, direct sunlight, more than 2.5 minutes. That is the virus, and a high humidity also has a very drastic effect on the virus. So here we are in high humidity, direct sunlight environment. So I think all these things have to be taken into consideration with the path forward, because nothing was known about this coronavirus in the Western world. Let's say 18 weeks ago, 15 weeks ago, was probably not even in the Western world's consciousness, or very, very minute. And here we are, down the line here, and I think we can learn from a lot of what's transpiring in other jurisdictions, how they're handling the way forward. And I think Patrick also mentioned, and maybe you mentioned, about the mental effect or psychological effect that some of these things have on various people. Many people cannot stay within the confines of a couple of walls very long without feeling whatever kind of feelings that it evokes. So all those things, and the beach access thing, really, I can understand why they're doing it, but for those people that caused, and I think that's the way that you'd have to put it, that caused them to take this direction of locking down the beaches completely. They should have been the one that was locked down, not the people who want to use the beach every.
I agree.
Yes, sir.
And it to a Caymanian, you take away the salt water and the beach. Hey, you're trampling on some sacred ground. So,
and if I may, Sterling, just add quickly, Mr. Locker,
yes,
thank you so much for that. I just wanted to say that the two things actually tie together, oddly enough, as I'm sure you realize, because obviously if our population maintaining, of course, the rules of the soft curfew, that is to say the physical distancing and so on and so forth, if you maintain those, we adhere to those, we behave ourselves, utilization of the beach or fishing or whatever that involves the salt water, which we are surrounded by, and which is very much intrinsic to our culture, can actually make a positive difference scientifically as well in terms of our ability to fight this pandemic. Because I did locate also the information that you were referring to, sir, but it was the result of a research conducted by the Department of Homeland Security, and they specifically stated that they're quite clear that the pathogens that are contained or cause the coronavirus are in fact killed very quickly in ultraviolet rays and high humidity. And so that fact, tied with the fact that the beach is so inherent to our culture. The two things, it doesn't make sense to me that that we should have this universal ban on the use of the beach, because I don't see how the beach is any harder to police than any other part of the island. And it just, with my, I suppose, basic understanding, I don't see the logic in its continuation.
All right. Any other comments, sir? Because always, your comments inspire us. And
I think what was prescribed with the beach's use originally, was quite. I would say if people practice, and I think this is where it came in, that people didn't practice what was recommended, and it shouldn't be the other ones who were practicing it that is taking the brunt of it. It should have been the people who were not practicing it. But
isn't that the unfortunate part? We always punish the innocent for the guilty.
Well, that's basically, I guess, sometimes the way it is. But having said that, I think what has been prescribed for us, if we follow it, we can go get through this thing and come out on the other side. I think, in fairly good shape. And those that can't follow or not following it, then they should be the ones that that are you want to say that are restricted in some ways, because that's what government is about, is prescribing things for the society that at least they feel that can benefit and give you good governance. So I hope that we'll soon. In fact, last time that I was at the beach for the first time, and I don't know how long, I looked down in the water, and there were jacks, jacks on my feet. I said,
wow.
Holy, I didn't see any fries, but so and maybe this whole thing will evolve in a very beneficial. I'm sure it will, in a very beneficial way to the whole Cayman community. And I think it's a junction that some course corrections can be implemented, and that we can sail full sheets to the wind and get out of this and just keep going in a good direction, providing we take the corrective measures that need to be taken now. And I think the society have a lot of should have a lot of input in that avenue as to how we fall off and keep going in the future. So
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Well, thank you for that. And we do have the break. So respectfully, love us to just go there. We'll come back. We'll continue the discussion. As the caller said, will we have the courage and the conviction to go forward and make the corrective action to make us that much? All right, stay tuned for Talk Today.
Attention blood donors, new blood donors, prospective blood donors. You want to save lives. You want to do your part. Join us at the Red Cross building, Thomas Russell Way, across from the Farmers Market, this Friday, April 24th, between the hours of 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. You can be a lifesaver. Give your pint. The second floor, the Red Cross building, our temporary donor station. Curfew day, not your day? Not a problem. Visit giveblood.ky and request your letter for the police, and it will be emailed to you. The National Blood Bank auxiliary location at the Red Cross building, compliments of the Cayman Islands Red Cross. Community partners are Generali Insurance, Car City Fosters Group, and Cayman Blood Donor Service. Remember, when blood is needed, nothing else will do. This message is courtesy of Rotary Club Central, supporting the National Blood Bank since 1999. Rotary, connecting the world.
Continuing the Caymanian tradition.
Let Cora keep my ground so clean.
The heart and soul of the Cayman people. Thank you for keeping the culture alive.
There's read the news every day. From East End to Georgetown, down into West Bay.
Radio Cayman in the Cayman Islands.
A recently commissioned Chamber of Commerce economic impact study on COVID-19 projects that between 10,712 and 14,048 jobs may be lost in the Cayman Islands as a result of the pandemic, depending on the lockdown period assumed. The Chamber said that the study was carried out to better understand the likely impacts and assist both the government and the private sector in responding to the crisis. The study was carried out by local consulting company FTS. Good afternoon, I'm Dion Anglin with your headlines and news elsewhere. France has banned the online sale of nicotine products and limited their sale in pharmacies after researchers suggested that nicotine may play a role in protecting against coronavirus. The new rules cover products like nicotine, gum and patches designed to help people stop smoking. And Captain Tom Moore, the war veteran who walked laps of his garden to raise money for the NHS, has become the oldest person ever to score a number of one single in the UK. At the age of 99, his duet with Michael Ball has knocked Canadian superstar The Weeknd from the top of the charts. That's a wrap of your headlines. I'm Dion Anglin.
Today's biggest news.
Radio Cayman.
It's only two species that we have here on the island.
Generations present.
Your voice, your choice.
For today's biggest news.
Access to information.
Local, regional, international. This is headlines from Radio Cayman's newsroom team.
Today's biggest news.
Social distancing is crucial for our community to get back to normal. And never before has communication been so crucial. Keeping in touch with family, friends, and up to date requires you to stay in touch. Green Turtle offers the solution for both. Download the Green Turtle app now. Top up yours or a loved one's phone with any mobile carrier in any destination in Cayman. Phones delivered to your home, and with the new rewards program, you can even redeem points towards a new phone and other products. Download the Green Turtle app today. Green Turtle is not only the future of mobile, but today it can help save a life. Hashtag Stay Home Cayman. Take a ride on the Green Turtle Express today. Download the Green Turtle app. The future of mobile, saving lives today.
Hi, I'm remodeling our bathroom. I have a few questions.
Sure.
What are some ideas to make my bathroom feel larger? How do I know if I'm picking the right vanity? How do I choose a new toilet or a new countertop? Also, the lighting is terrible. Can I put a window or a skylight? And do I really need an exhaust fan?
You've come to the right place. At Brand Source, we custom design kitchen and baths, and our talented design team can help answer your questions. Whether you're looking for a modern, functional family bathroom or a luxurious personal retreat, we'll help create that beautiful space that makes your home yours. And if you're in a rush for a new look and have a limited budget, our ready-to-install bathroom vanities, built with solid wood and countertops of the finest materials, are a quick and easy remodeling solution.
For the very best in custom-designed kitchens and baths, visit Brand Source Home Gallery on Dorsey Drive, Industrial Park, Cayman's Kitchen and Bath Center.
For nearly 20 years, Kingsport Center has been the heart of the Cayman fitness and wellness community. In order to ensure the welfare of all, we are temporarily closed until further notified by the Cayman Islands government that it is safe to reopen. During these trying times, we encourage everyone to maintain a healthy lifestyle, mind, body, and soul. We look forward to continuing providing you with world-class service in the very near future. Remain strong and continue to show the world the power of Cayman unity. Kingsport Center, your one-stop shop for fitness, recreation, and relaxation. Hello, Cayman. I'm Quincy Brown. Anybody else getting mixed up with all these new coronavirus terms? Me too. But guess what? I've watched the press conferences and I've read the press releases and I've seen all the social media posts. Look here, I can help you out. Stay at home. Stay home. No get about it. Stay your backside home. Una got it now? If Una want to stay up to the time with what's going on, there's only one place for the real information, the Cayman Islands government. Visit gov.ky/coronavirus. Now remember, keep washing your hands, keep following the rules, and keep taking care of each other. Saving lives is Caymankind.
Talk today. but I do have some questions. Talk today.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners participation program.
Talk today.
Because there are more questions than answers.
What the public is saying.
Waiting to take your calls right now. Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Hey, good afternoon and welcome back. Thank you for joining us. And even though, we're working remotely, as they say these days, we're still productive, constructive, and engaged. Hopefully through this medium we can involve and inform you. Now, Miss Susan is standing by. The phone lines are open. You can call and shout and share your thoughts with us. 894-98037 or toll free with the compliments of flow. 1-800-534-8255. Or you can WhatsApp 925-3261. And joining me, excellent company, Patrick Schmid. So, Patrick, thanks again, man. Thank you so much.
Good to be here, sir. So I just actually, you go ahead.
No, I was going to say, I was hoping that the last caller, had he called earlier, that we could have more time with him, because he, as usual, and especially then, made some very, very important points. Full that whether it's the policing authority, whether it's the premier or anybody else, that they would take on board, his counsel, his wisdom, his experience, and see how we can move forward, in particular, in relation to the beach. But I had some other things, but let me hear from you if you wish to share. If not, I'll jump in.
I'll just make it very, very short. But to make the main point, I agree with you. And this is with no disrespect to our leaders. I think that they've been doing an excellent job, in my own opinion. And most people are clearly of the same mindset. By comparison to other places, we are very fortunate, and that has to be, at least in part, as a result of the quick action taken by the Cayman Islands government. So kudos to them for that, and nobody can take that away from them. But at the same time, we need to balance that with, as Mr. Banks was certainly implying, if not outright saying, that we have to be balanced in all that we do. I don't envy our leaders for having to take care of, protect an entire society, sometimes from itself. But at the same time, I don't believe, or rather, I believe that we're far past the stage where we legislate because of the performance or misbehavior of the lowest common denominator in our society. We are supposed to have moved on from that, and we're supposed to also be avoiding the legislation of morals. And sometimes some of these, albeit in special circumstances, some of these restrictions are bordering on that. And I don't think it's quite fair to the populace.
Indeed. But I sort of want to pick up on that in a sec. But we are grateful for those listening and those calling. So let's go to the phones. Welcome. Good afternoon.
Hello. Good afternoon, Radio Cayman.
Hey, good afternoon. Yes, sir.
Oh, yes, sir. Okay, I'm listening to your program. I had to pull aside because I was driving, actually. I had to pull aside to take this call. Listen, I understand. Really, I really do understand the pain of the people who have been restricted from going to the beach and whatever else it is. And I listened to the gentleman just now who said we should not be controlled by the behavior of the lowest common denominator, as he put it. And I think that's exactly right. But I think the government has a hard road to hoe. And they cannot treat, I don't think, some people as not important. Okay, if they want to do the idiot, let them go ahead and do it and kill themselves or whatever. I don't know exactly what he was saying. But I do sincerely feel that the government, I mean, you have a panel of intelligent people up there, the premier, the governor, the CMO, the minister of health, and I mean, and every day you have some very serious people up there. And nobody else is taking that approach. I think when all these intelligent people come together, I think they look at all the facts and they say, listen, this might be too much. The business people don't like it. I am not entirely happy by the end result. But I am, entirely happy over the end result, that is. But I sincerely feel that the government and those people who are responsible for dealing with this issue aren't doing it through caprice or through self-aggrandizement or because they want to thump their chest. I know some of them are feeling pain. The premier, I saw maybe the hint of a tear in his eye when he said people are calling him and saying, listen, you can't do this, you can't do that. Why don't you do this or why don't you do that? And I know he's feeling pain because he's responsible for dealing with these issues. He has a hard road to hoe. And he has got to make some tough decisions. But I think, and I will leave you with this, that I think that he sincerely feels, this is an intelligent man, and he sincerely feels that he's doing what's best for us in and on this island. I certainly wish them well. I hope God is kind enough to let us get over this as quickly as possible. But I want to state unequivocally that I support the government in what it's trying to do to keep everything together on this island. Thank you ever so much for listening, Stella.
No, thank you very much for sharing as well. And Patrick, like the caller said in the one prior, I think that we are a country where people are genuinely supportive, maybe that docile, sort of agreeable, even if you want to call compliant nature that served us well, can continue to serve us now. But I believe that equally, the government is also cognizant, as the caller shared, that this can't be the life that we'll have from here on out. So we get over the hump, we get through this thing, and we want to emerge in a certain way. Do we know what that thing is? Do we have a plan for this thing post-pandemic, post-lockdown? And is it for a healthier, physical, mental, spiritual, financial, and otherwise, safer, stable, more secure, more unified, more cooperative, more loving, much kinder? Is that the society we want, or is it, as we were saying all along, like we saw after Ivan, things back up and going good now, Bobo, jump right back in, and each man for himself, and is that what we want? Because then it will be all for naught, right? We can hit reset now.
Well, I certainly wouldn't want to see us return to things that we have improved upon already, or are on the road to improving. And just to be clear, I was not being critical at all of the premier, especially, nor any of the members of government.
No, you weren't.
And in fact, the opposition and the government have come together. And you were highlighting the fact that people were saying how proud we were to see that our government demonstrated such maturity. And when I say government, I mean all of the elected members demonstrated such maturity by coming together to do what is right for the people and for the country. And that is all very, very true, and it rings home every time we hear it. And we hear that they care. So anybody who would criticize them and say different, I think, would be wrong. But
right.
At the same time, what I am inviting in terms of thought, if I may, and very respectfully so, is that we consider that perhaps we could do things that would alleviate some of the strain and pressures. It may be possible, for example, to have the supermarkets open a little bit later now, given the large queues and the complaints and so on and so forth. And things aren't always as smooth as they initially appear, because it is not in the nature of Caymanians to complain until it becomes such a big problem that complaining is almost an afterthought. And in fact, the problem has gone on from there to something more difficult.
Mm-hmm. And I hear what you're sharing, and I'm hopeful that as people listen, that there are a number of things that are evident. I think for the most part, we all recognize that we're in this together, irrespective of whether we look at our status, and I use that word deliberately, and conclude that we've been here for generations, or whether we are expecting that if this thing hadn't materialized the way and as fast as it had, that we will be applying to change our immigration status so that we've become, sort of citizens, whatever that may be, right? Or whether we're long-term visitors and we're now on the island because we decided, this was the better option that was presented to me. So if we are here now, let's work together to make it better, not just for now, but for the end. But with that in mind, though, I think it's still important that we remain vigilant. We remain very much in possession of our mental faculties. We are prepared to hold leadership, the religious leadership, the political leadership, the civic leadership, the business leadership, in every comment, to hold it accountable so that we understand that this thing was said and done, and this is the outcome, the consequence. And if it wasn't good, you're going to be held accountable. The politician will be elected or not elected. The person that did this, that caused that, because we can't just continue to turn a blind eye to bad behavior, poor judgment. And it's like the caller earlier, who has evidently, sort of repeated what so many have been saying. Why do we continue to punish the many for the egregious, disrespectful behavior of a few? You go to the beach, let's use it for an example, and there's this thing, so we gotta lock everybody down. It's like the classroom teacher, when one child misbehaves, punishes the whole class. You're not gonna go out for lunchtime. Well, little Johnny or little Susie or little Mary was the one that were misbehaving. Why punish the other 29 children? All right? Now, if we look at
especially when they could have punished. I mean, according to the commissioner, he said that the helicopter spotted approximately 20 people accumulating, and that they had started to disperse by the time the ground crew had arrived there. They could have ticketed a number of people and set an example.
Yeah, but I mean, the thing is, right, even if we for whatever reason, we choose not to account or whichever, right? Again, I think to the comments just as recent as yesterday here on Talk Today, right? I won't even go beyond this platform. You're out exercising. It is not impossible or improbable that people can congregate and moving back and forth, even though you're moving along, right? What's the difference there than on the beach? Or as a caller yesterday, one of the guests yesterday said, if you're on the beach, why is Sunday not an exercise day? What's the deal, right? You're pushing everybody into the days. If you think of the healthcare workers, for argument's sake, presuming that they are now working not just 12-hour shifts, they're working, 50-hour days, right? When are they going to get a chance to go and catch some fresh air, get some exercise, right? If they have to do it Monday through Saturday, and they're probably also going to be working Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, if they can't get a date to go exercise, right? Like the supermarkets and extended hours, maybe the beaches, maybe exercise need to be revisited and reopened sooner rather than later. If nothing else, right? The notion of the cultural significance of the fresh air and taking a dip in the sea, the studies that are coming out saying sunlight and salt water and the lake probably good, but the mental health, right? Now, I'm grateful for the people who are calling. As I said to two people this morning, I said, listen, anytime you call, I certainly want to listen, but people like you need to start speaking out publicly because two reasons. One, your voice carries greater weight, and two, how many people want to hear me, right? But check this out. Guide me if you think this off. We talk about the elderly. I want to make sure I didn't misunderstand, and I ask you respectfully, and all who are listening, to correct me if I am misspeaking or what I said is misleading or in a way inaccurate. But they said we're being told repeatedly, especially now, right, to make sure we look after our elderly, right? But if we can't engage with our elderly in a way, we can't go check on our parents or elderly neighbors, right? If we are concerned that they're isolated, what not only for their mental health but their physical health, they can't get about. We can't take them like how they should. Now, as one person said to me earlier, he said, "Listen, thankful for the resources, the money, for the places being open. I can call and I can get food ordered. I can pay for it, and it can be delivered by this person to this elderly person in the community. But I can't cook a meal and take over." Now, you don't know to what extent the meal that is being delivered, how it's been handled and prepared and the like. But if you were taking it for your parents, you would probably take extra precautions in this time, right?
Right.
Now, as we go to the break, just let this cement for a second, right? If you were taking our food on a Sunday, it's outside the curfew hours. If you're taking it after 7 p.m., you could be in trouble. But this person who's being paid to deliver can do it. Now, tell me something. Does that make sense, especially with looking at elderly? There are times that these things need to be revisited and revisited fast. But when we come back, I want to speak about something else, if you will engage me. How about that, Mr. Smith? Would that be fine?
Of course.
Let's do that, man. Thanks to Miss Susan and to the rest of you. Now call in. She wants to answer your calls. We want to hear from you. Stay tuned for Talk Today.
Social distancing is crucial for our community to get back to normal. And never before has communication been so crucial. Keeping in touch with family, friends, and up to date requires you to stay in touch. Green Turtle offers the solution for both. Download the Green Turtle app now. Top up yours or a loved one's phone with any mobile carrier in any destination in Cayman. Phones delivered to your home, and with the new rewards program, you can even redeem points towards a new phone and other products. Download the Green Turtle app today. Green Turtle is not only the future of mobile, but today. It can help save a life. Hashtag Stay Home Cayman. Take a ride on the Green Turtle Express today. Download the Green Turtle app. The future of mobile, saving lives today.
Vamped Motors encourages everyone to stay home in compliance with our government's directives, which are absolutely critical to protect our islands from the coronavirus. In light of this, Vamped Motors will be closed until our Cayman Islands government gives us the all clear to return to work. Please, everyone, be safe and let's get through this together by staying apart.
The public is advised that all public beaches will be closed throughout the Cayman Islands for a full 24-hour hard curfew from the 17th of April to 5 a.m. 1st of May 2020. This means persons are prohibited from entering on, walking, swimming, snorkeling, fishing, exercising, or any type of activity on any public beach during these times. Private owners with beach access are not permitted beyond the high water mark. Stay home to save lives, Cayman.
Hello, Cayman. I'm Quincy Brown. Anybody else getting mixed up with all these new coronavirus terms? Me too. But guess what? I've watched the press conferences and I've read the press releases and I've seen all the social media posts. Look here, I can help you out. Social distancing. Well, that means you're to keep a distance of 3 to 6 feet away from the person next to you. Or in layman's term, if you can see the color of the eye next to you, you're too close. Una got it now? If Una want to stay up to the time with what's going on, there's only one place for the real information, the Cayman Islands government. Visit gov.ky/coronavirus. Now remember, keep washing your hands, keep following the rules, and keep taking care of each other. Saving lives is Caymankind.
Start getting your debt under control with a debt consolidation loan from Fidelity Bank. At Fidelity, your loan decision is quick with no runaround. Plus, with competitive interest rates and fees, we will help you reduce your monthly payments and get you back to living again. Don't let the burden of overwhelming debt tie you down this year. Call Fidelity today and let's make it happen with a Fidelity Bank debt consolidation loan. Fidelity, we're good for you.
Healthcare Pharmacy takes care of your health throughout the COVID-19 virus pandemic. Our pharmacy in Grand Harbor's temporary opening hours are from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. Monday to Saturday. Our pharmacy in Governor's Square is open from 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. Monday to Saturday. Please go to healthcarepharmacy.ky to refill and transfer your prescriptions online. That makes for easier and fast pickup times at our pharmacies, and we will get to keep our social distancing. We urge you to stay home and stay safe, Cayman.
The Cayman Islands government would like to remind the public that e-services are available for vehicle license renewal, trade and business licensing, police clearance, and other transactions. Skip the line and apply online. E-services are user-friendly, efficient, and most important, you can apply and pay from the comfort of your home. Visit eservices.gov.ky.
Talk today. But I do have some questions. Talk today.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners participation program.
Talk today.
Because there are more questions than answers.
What the public is saying.
Waging to take your calls right now. Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Okay, I'm not hearing anything, Miss Susan. Yeah, but I'm not hearing anything. Okay, good afternoon and welcome back. Thank you so much. Hey, see that technology? A good server, but a bad master, boy. Miss Susan, she's handling the fort really good. All right, we'll get it. We'll get it. We will get it. Patrick Schmidt, just to make sure that I'm hearing everything okay. Are you there?
I'm here, sir.
All right. Well, it's good to hear another voice, man. That way you know you're not. What they say, the psychologist telling us now it's okay to talk to your plants and your walls. Just only become concerned when you hear them talk back to you. So,
When you realize you've been doing it for 5 years.
yeah, man. But I you know, as I was just reflecting on some of the comments during the break that some of our listeners are sharing, I'm encouraged that more and more people are not just continuing in prayer and very, very physically supportive and encouraging of the country and the government's efforts, but I'm hoping that more of us now are looking out for each other. And as we're looking down the road, as we've been saying all along, if we have thus far achieved so many positives or the potential for so much great things, that we make sure that this becomes part of that new normal that we keep hearing and not quickly go back to even worse than what it was prior. Are there any sort of concerns? Well, no, let me change that. Let me ask it this way. Are in your mind and to our listeners, what can we do to ensure that these wins that we're seeing, these positives that we're now experiencing, for instance, just as an example, the caller earlier shared, Mr. Mike shared, for the first time, we're seeing, that when we go to the beach, as clear as the waters were, they're much clearer now. And I can say that I've had this report from so many people. They've seen birds and different little things that they never saw in the longest of times. The waters are much better. The air is sweeter and crisper and so on. So are there things that we can do to make sure that we don't undo some of these destructive things that have happened thus far?
Well, I presume you're asking me, right, Dwayne?
Well, unless you want me to ask and answer for myself.
Basically, I just want to say that we have to consider also that not everything that we're seeing in terms of what we might consider positive is actually the result of actions taken contra the COVID-19. Because, for example, we have not had any real rainfall to speak of in over 3 months. That is a fact.
Mm-hmm.
You can see the dryness everywhere, and also a lot of those. So hence, perhaps some of the reason for the clarity of the water. There are less people swimming around in it, and stirring up the silt. And also, there's the fact in terms of the birds and this and that coming out. There's a shortage of water in their normal ecology for whatever reason this is happening, and so I wouldn't say that that's necessarily an effect, but I get the overall point. And so to revert back to the question, I think that you're asking, if I understand correctly, I think that we need to be very careful to continue, and when I say we, anybody who's involved in any form of leadership at whatever level. Even in the relationship between parents and children, for example, we need to take the example that is being demonstrated by our government right now and always be honest, forthright, and timely in the information that is being disseminated so that people are given a fair chance to make decisions for themselves as well within the remit of the law. And
well, I'm going to ask you to let me remind us to sit up, because that was one of the other comments. But we do have a caller, and respectfully, I do. Let's go there. Good afternoon. Thank you for sharing.
And good afternoon to you, Dwayne, and good afternoon to Patrick.
Good afternoon, ma'am. How are you today?
Not too bad, I'm thankful because God has blessed me to see another day. But what Mr. Loeffler was saying, that is true. Also what Patrick is saying too. But what has happened? We have granted this is my opinion. Please, nobody don't make no mistake on this. This is my opinion. We have granted so many building permits, that trees have to be pushed down, land have to be filled up, that we're disturbing, like the parrots and stuff that used to be back there in the yacht club area. We're disturbing their habitat and all the other wildlife that is in Cayman. We're disturbing them, and they need food, they need water, and the birds that fly over the ocean have been seen, a lot of them. In fact, I never seen so much. I don't know if it's another name for them, but we call them man o' wars. They're now starting to fly inland, and my grandfather always told me, when you see inland, that means for squally weather. And I'm saying that's good. That's good, because then we might have some rain. But that's one of the reasons why we can't have any rain, because greedy people are pushing down our trees and what God has given us. He never lent them to us. He gave us for us, the people, to take care of. And Patrick can tell you that on Wednesday, his birthday, we went, and also Earth Day, we went, took garbage bags, and were picking up garbage from everywhere. But just below the Northwest Point Cemetery, you cannot see the garbage. It's below Northwest Point Cemetery on the seaside. It's a big piece of land. I think it's private land. The people had it cut down at one time, but now it's all bush and stuff. And that's why people has taken their appliances, their mattresses, and even dead animals and put on that land. But the environmental department do not know about this because of all the bush and whatnot. But I said, these nasty, disrespectful people, that they do not respect what God has given us, the land, the sea. And then we can't go to the beach until a certain time. Now I miss it. I took it for granted, and now I miss it. But it's going to be a time coming soon when we'll get back to the beach and get back to some normal life, because we need to be praying, and don't forget God when all of this is over. Not like Ivan. Everybody was so friendly and yes, ma'am, and yes, sir. And then after that, they forgot. They forgot about people and who has helped them. So I pray for everyone to heed what the government is telling them, but we still need to get back to the beach, even if you got to do it by alphabet. But hopefully soon.
Soon, indeed, get a dip in the sea. But thank you very much for that, Mom, and always appreciate it for your respectful. Though. Let's go to the other line. The 2 p.m. headline briefing. The 2 p.m. briefing will come up after the headline news, I believe. So let's go to the call. Good afternoon. Thank you for calling.
Good afternoon, Sterling, and good afternoon, Patrick. Your student friend you have on today. My granddaughter gave me that new word, stush. I don't know if you get it. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I didn't hear you say that. That's why I laughed. Okay, so now I got frown.
Anybody she dressed up and looked good, she said, "Hey, stush." So anyway, Sterling, everybody got their opinion about this. Well, I don't miss them from off the beach, because I think the beach need a break from them, because if people see the garbage and the beer bottles that they leave, and now it is clean now, and by the time it open back up again, it'll be the same way. So I don't feel sorry for them because everywhere you go, we can't go to places and do this and that. And they come here, and the majority of what I see on Miramala Drive, they're not Caymanians. But you got some Caymanians too. They come, they eat their Kentucky, they leave it down there, they come, they burn fire, everything they don't even respect us that live there. Anyway, I could sell water. I could go on the beach and get salt water and probably sell it to them if they want some car home. But I say, Patrick and Sterling, people are not taking the premier, the governor, and the minister of culture serious. This thing is a killer, a killer. I am on that bus. That's called the Three Musketeer bus. If I go survive, it'll be like what they say. If you go to hell, carry a Jamaican, you'll get us. I will get it if I follow them. Then you got the greedy people bus, which is called the Ira, and you got the Sarah, the part of one. I don't know which one you guys going on, but take it from me. I even made a plastic mask. This is where I read, and this is how I know certain things. I am listening and going on the Three Musketeers bus. You know why? People not listening. You don't know where people go. You don't know what people do. You don't know who they mix with. So why you want to be where all these people is? Let me tell you something about this whole thing. I am telling you guys that this is a killer. You need to see the autopsy of my son from the swine flu, how it destroys your heart, whatever kind of lungs you got. See that, and then you all may think something. Because, Sterling, if this thing gets away in Cayman, God have mercy. What they need to do, call Alden, tell them which funeral tomb they want, Churchill's or Borden's, and he need to bring in that thing that can burn them, because we not going to have no way. This island is too small. So we got to control it. And then if people want to get out, want to party, want this, well, I'm sorry. I am on the Three Musketeers bus, and I hope that you guys are on that bus. Take this from me, honey. You guys have a good day and keep the good works up. That's all I got to say.
All right. Well, thank you. And but Patrick, that caller, in a sense, unless we're not side by side, so I can't see what they say the whites of your eyes. So before I say anything else, you want to weigh in and jump in, or can I take us down another path?
I think it's your turn.
It's my turn. Listen to me, some days, I'm not in the car that I want to be in, but one day I'll be on the bicycle that I want. So, as we ride through, the roads are back us. We can get a chance to see and smell and taste and hear the sounds that have probably been unfamiliar to us, like the callers probably were sharing. But that's the other thing that maybe we could look at as we look at where this thing is and what this thing looks like and what it would be, for argument's sake, right? Not in any shape, form, or fashion that anybody right now, at least not the two of us and no callers thus far, or offer up any kind of criticism of anything, right? Just yet. But the number of callers that I've received, and just the minute today alone, but one stood out asking, well, what is the plan after this, right? And perhaps it is now timely for our government that during the press briefings and any information to start to say to the people, hey, this is what we're thinking, this is what we're looking at. One lady, I wish I could have seen her, because the image that I got as she was talking, the emotion, the sincerity, the concern, she's saying, the government, generally speaking, as if the people, the populace don't have, in a sense, can understand, too stupid, don't deserve to know. But she says, tell us, even if you don't know, but this is what you're thinking, give us some information so that offers up a sense of hope and expectation. But equally, it gives us the time to plan and to prepare and know how to respond, right? I'll weigh into that. While you meld on it, let's go to the phone and pick up the other caller. Welcome. Good afternoon.
Hi, good afternoon. I support the caller before this last one with being able to allow us to go back to the beach. After all, that's our heritage. That's one of the little freedoms we had left.
Hello?
You there still?
Okay, yeah, I'm not sure.
It's good for your health, overall health. for your muscles, your nerves, your stress, your anxiety, your eyes, your nose, your throat, your mouth, flu, sinus, anything that it's good for. Very refreshing and cools you off and relaxes your body. Now, I understand the problem is the innocent are suffering now for the guilty. Those 40 people or 42 people, whatever number it was, that went on the beach early that morning, well, I hope they got prosecuted. Maybe they didn't. But it's not fair for those families. We have a single member of family who goes to the beach by themselves and another one with mother and 2 children. And that's unfair when you just have one person going and then 3 people from the same family going and can no longer go for exercise, to walk on the beach, to go for a nice swim, for the children to play and enjoy themselves. That's not fair. And we need to get a break there, because otherwise a lot of us will soon lose our marbles and they'll go nuts. This is becoming too much now for the innocent, paying for the guilty. While we know it's important, we have to keep down this coronavirus as much as possible, and we appreciate all that they have been doing, but they need to give certain people a break too, because it is not essential for the liquor outlets to be open, in my opinion. I heard that there are some on the beach in West Bay who are sitting down there drinking and putting sand in the beer cans or bottles and just throwing them overboard. So I think we need to check that one out. Thank you.
All right, thank you. And Patrick, that caller's last point in terms of the mental health and wellness, the first caller said, some of us, confined to 4 walls isn't good for us, right? For some of us, we just need to get out. Maybe it's in the DNA. We need to look beyond the horizon. We need to smell the salt air, taste it. We need to feel the sun, because that's us, right? But being cooped up, it can't be good for anybody.
No, I agree. I think as is the case with every single country, and evidence has come out already on various. But we're human beings, and we are susceptible to the same issues, psychological and otherwise. And I think, to be, with all due respect, I think it is a little bit more difficult for persons who are involved in the fight against the coronavirus, who have the passes to go out when they need to go to work. Granted, it's to work, but it gives you a different setting to operate in for at least a period of time. And when, for them to put themselves in the shoes of those individuals who do not have any such passes, who have to be locked down the vast majority of the time, sometimes just they themselves by themselves at home, inevitably it's going to result in discontent, and worse yet, it could result in mental issues, at least temporary mental issues. And I think that we have to be very careful with that. Now, this is not to say, and please, I wouldn't want any of the listeners to confuse what I'm saying with being contrarian to what the government has said. I'm not suggesting for 1 second, I know Mrs. Gilbert referred to it, but I'm not confusing for 1 second the importance of adhering to the rules and regulations and as stipulated by our leaders. That is fundamentally important. But at the same time, I think that it's incumbent upon our leaders to consider what is reasonable and what is not reasonable, and to come up with regular readjustments to balance things out.
Well, as I listen to you, and I don't want anybody to, certainly don't misconstrue what you're saying. If they misconstrue what I'm saying, well, I have to take responsibility. But you haven't said that wasn't implied, intimated, suggested in any which way, shape, or form. But I think what I am saying is, hey, let's draw alongside our government. Let's prepare to work in tandem. What is it to say? Lead, follow, or get out of the way. And whatever we do, make sure it's to our safety, that we're doing it collectively for the greater good for all of us, right? And like so many of the callers have shared, don't use this as an opportunity to, with a blanket brush, paint everybody in the same way, punish everybody for the offenses of a few, right? And the amount of people who've called and say, well, who it is that is getting, these curfew violations and why and so on, and why doesn't the community know this and thing? There's stuff that the community would like to know. Now, we have a break coming up, and when we come back, maybe I'll ask a question about population in relation to, sustainability and carrying capacity, and frame it in the light of what we've been hearing globally from the perspective that now that the humans have sort of pulled back, waterways are clear, but let's limit it to the Cayman context, where once again, as beautiful and clean and crisp and clear the waters and the wind and the breeze and the air and the environment has been, it's even better, noticeably better. Well, what do we do about that going forward? All right, stay tuned for Talk Today.
Social distancing is crucial for our community to get back to normal. And never before has communication been so crucial. Keeping in touch with family, friends, and up to date requires you to stay in touch. Green Turtle offers the solution for both. Download the Green Turtle app now. Top up yours or a loved one's phone with any mobile carrier in any destination in Cayman. Phones delivered to your home, and with the new rewards program, you can even redeem points towards a new phone and other products. Download the Green Turtle app today. Green Turtle is not only the future of mobile, but today it can help save a life. Hashtag Stay Home Cayman. Take a ride on the Green Turtle Express today. Download the Green Turtle app. The future of mobile, saving lives today.
Preventing dengue is as simple as preventing mosquito bites. Use a mosquito repellent, wear protective clothing, and stay indoors during early dawn and dusk when mosquitoes are most active. Control the places around you where mosquitoes breed. Remove stagnant water in outdoor and household settings. As a weekly habit, persons should change the water in vases, clear the water in saucers under potted plants, and ensure air conditioner drip trays are free of stagnant water. Outdoor objects capable of holding water should be kept empty and preferably disposed of or put into dry storage if not used. These include open bottles and tins, watering cans, buckets, empty paint tins, and old vehicle tires. Do your part to control the spread of dengue. The dengue virus is an infectious disease transmitted through mosquito bites. Symptoms may come on as early as 4 days or as late as 3 weeks following an infection. There is no vaccine or specific medication to treat dengue. Symptoms of dengue include high fever, headache, pain behind the eyes, joint and muscle pain, and rash. If persons have any of these symptoms, they should go to the nearest health center or hospital. It is advised to drink lots of liquids and avoid medication that contains aspirin.
Digicel is all about giving customers more convenience, more peace of mind, and more flexibility. Do more with the new My Digicel app. Buy plans, pay your bill, track your credit, track your data, and monitor your account. It's easy to use and has everything you need in one place. It's time to simplify your life, so go ahead and see for yourself. Download the new My Digicel app today. More made simple.
At Seaboard Marine, customers often ask us questions about their shipments.
Hi, I'm thinking of buying a car from the States. Which port do you ship out of?
Hi, we ship out of Miami, Houston, and Brooklyn. Just let us know your port of choice and we can provide you with a quotation and answer any questions you may have on insuring and protecting your vehicle during its journey.
Shipping shore to shore, Seaboard.
Attention blood donors, new blood donors, prospective blood donors. You want to save lives. You want to do your part. Join us at the Red Cross building, Thomas Russell Way, across from the Farmers Market, this Friday, April 24th, between the hours of 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. You can be a lifesaver. Give your pint. The second floor, the Red Cross building, our temporary donor station. Curfew day, not your day? Not a problem. Visit giveblood.ky and request your letter for the police, and it will be emailed to you. The National Blood Bank auxiliary location at the Red Cross building, compliments of the Cayman Islands Red Cross. Community partners are Generali Insurance, Car City Fosters Group, and Cayman Blood Donor Service. Remember, when blood is needed, nothing else will do. This message is courtesy of Rotary Club Central, supporting the National Blood Bank since 1999. Rotary, connecting the world.
Hello, Cayman. I'm Quincy Brown. Anybody else getting mixed up with all these new coronavirus terms? Me too. But guess what? I've watched the press conferences and I've read the press releases and I've seen all the social media posts. Look here, I can help you out. Essential staff, police officers, immigration, customs, doctors, nurses, first responders, they are essential staff. So if you got to ask, then you ain't. And I got it now? If on a want to stay up to the time with what's going on, there's only one place for the real information: the Cayman Islands government. Visit gov.ky/coronavirus. Now remember, keep washing your hands, keep following the rules, and keep taking care of each other. Saving lives is Caymankind.
Do you have questions about your water service? We've got the answer. Keep up to date with what's happening at the Water Authority by checking our website, waterauthority.ky. You can also stay up to date by following our Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter page.
Talk today.
But I do have some questions.
Talk today.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners participation program.
Talk today.
Because there are more questions than answers.
What the public is saying.
Waiting to take your calls right now. Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Hey, good afternoon and welcome back. Thanks for joining us. Quick reminder, 2 p.m. Daily Press Briefing is scheduled for today, and we will take it to you live when it happens. If it happens on time, we'll go straight there. If not, we'll be here until it starts and we'll go there. Now, equally, Patrick Schmid is always so gracious with his time, his counsel, and his insight. So, Patrick, thanks very much for standing by and keeping our company.
A pleasure to be here, Sterling.
All right. Listen, I was just looking at during the break, and someone sent a message, and as I quickly responded to him, I apologize. It's a bit lengthy and involved to really go through it now to do it justice. But it was picking up on our point earlier that I was referencing prior to the break about carrying capacity in our population and the plan going forward and the like. And I'm thinking that that's where a lot of us are looking at in terms of, how do we sort of emerge from this? What is that plan? And equally, what is the country, sort of, as I try to quickly look at this thing, probably missing a lot of it. What is the country prepared to do in terms of my words, right? Because I didn't see this in the text that was sent to me. What sacrifices are we being asked and are willing to make? As an example, all right? And I do recognize the time, as I shared, we have the daily press briefing at 2. But as an example, one part of this message that was sent through and the links that were there shared that to date, everybody, and especially during this particular sort of episode that we're going through, asking and expecting the government to make all of the sacrifices without understanding two things. The government is us. And secondly, if the government is going to do it, we're going to be affected by it, but are we individually and in the business community willing to do it? So, for instance, a couple of the quick bullet points said the government either delaying fees or waiving fees or reducing fees, or is going to be spending money for this or doing money for that or giving up that, which is probably wise. But the question that was asked is the private sector. Some have come on board. We've seen in relation to procuring test kits and assistings and food and giving money to, help out in certain areas. But the question that was specifically asked, the banks, okay, they're going to say, we're going to, defer payments, but are they prepared to say, let's pause? Again, my words for interpreting this, right? Let's hit pause as of the 1st of April, 31st of March, 1st of May, until X time, your loan is suspended and there's no interest accruing. And when we restart on the 1st of September or the 1st of October or the 1st of December, then we'll pick up where we left off. Are banks prepared to do that? Because everybody else is going to be given up something. Well, the banks have a responsibility to employees and to shareholders, but, we didn't choose to be locked down or to be unemployed. So we can accrue interest on a loan that is going to extend it by a period of time. I mean, just a thought. Hopefully I got that, what the person was saying. There were many other comments, but that was the one that was the second in the series of bullet points. Any thoughts, Mr. Schmid?
Mm-hmm. Well, I think that there are some things that are clearly within our control and some things which are not. And that applies to all groupings, whether you're talking about the corporate entities, if you will, or whether you're talking about the individual. Of course, it has become increasingly more popular to look at countries from the perspective not of their per capita GDP, but rather of their overall livability, the quality of life ratio, and things like this. And so in considering these things, you mentioned carrying capacity, by which I infer that you're referring to the fact that we have limited space and we have limited population and so on and so forth. And so that striking that balance, that ideal balance and manageability, to make this place an affordable place, a place where we have a quality local job market, we have economic stability, we have friendly people, we have income equality, gender equality, political stability, safety, quality of public education, quality of the public health system. That takes a lot, and it takes everybody to participate. And as you correctly put it, we are all part of the government. This is a democratic system of government after all. And what we don't want is we don't want corporate entities, with all due respect, paying giving something and being lauded for it, but it not being something which is continued, or it only is a drop in the bucket rather than being a long-term commitment to a long-term solution, which will enable people to do the right thing as well. And we do need everybody on board.
Yeah, man. And I appreciate sharing that. And I think that, like I said, I do not believe the intent of this. I don't want to call it an epistle, but it certainly is lengthy, was to take a dig at the banks solely or specifically. But as an example, I was reading it. I was paying attention to what you were saying, but I was just kind of through the article a little bit more, or the message, and it said, hopefully I don't. Well, yeah. Anyway, I say it this way. Hopefully it doesn't identify the person, but the person says, as an entity that owns a number of properties, it has presumably extended concession to tenants and to others, because during this time things are different. So going forward, maybe that'll build loyalty. It at least shows a sense of humanity. Those are the two words that jumped out as I scanned, what was sent to me, and pointed out in relation to banks. Why don't the banks do the same? All you're saying is for 3 months, it's going to be costly, but we're going to suspend interest, principal, and everything. So if your balance is 100,000 at the April the 30th, then when we start back on September the 30th, it'll be 100,000. It won't be 100,000 and interest for the ensuing months compounded. In other words, added to the 100,000, and then that interest is on interest added to that 100,000 plus the interest and so on, right?
Sure.
Now, you might say, not you specifically, but people listening might say, well, that's not how you do business. Well, this isn't business as usual, is it?
Right.
The other thing, and almost there at the 2 p.m. headline using in the press briefing. So to our listeners, we will do that. If it starts on time, we'll go straight to it. If not, we'll come back. Patrick, you're welcome to join us afterwards, and just be mindful that we will jump right into it when it starts. Or if you need to go and do what I should have done, grab a little bite to eat, a little morsel, you decide, let me know it. But the other point that was in this thing that was sent to me, I hope I read this correctly. I should have put on my glasses. Guernsey, not Jersey, but Guernsey. I always mix them two up, so my apologies. It seems to have sent a thing that Guernsey has a civil contingencies authority. Don't know much about it, but just reading quickly. And the person has suggested that instead of a regimen, whether we merge hazard management and expand the certs or the like, why don't we create something similar that allows us to deal with these issues, as opposed to what seems to be the norm, creating little military militia like token sycophants, as it were. So a civil contingencies authority. I don't mean to throw that on you. Any thoughts?
Yeah. Can I just ask you a quick question, going back to your previous comment, though? You had a guest on not so long ago who normally appears on the Thursday morning every other week, and he was talking about the need perhaps to write off some debt. Did I understand that correctly? Perhaps after the news or whenever you choose, you might be able to address that.
Fair enough. Let's do that. Let's go to our news, and when you come back, please join us.
Your 2 p.m. headlines brought to you by greenturtle.ky. Take a ride on the Green Turtle Express today. Download the Green Turtle app, the future of mobile, saving lives today.
Today's biggest news.
Radio Cayman.
It's only 2 species that we have, on the island.
Generations present.
Your voice, your choice. For today's biggest news.
Access to information.
Local, regional, international, this is headlines from Radio Cayman's newsroom team.
Today's biggest news.
Police today confirm a public figure has been charged with 3 counts of common assault and 1 count of disorderly conduct under the liquor license law in connection with an incident at Coral Beach. While police did not name the suspect, we have reported previously how Speaker the Honorable McKeever Bush issued an apology regarding his behavior while announcing he would be taking a leave of absence to work on personal problems. The incident took place on Friday, February 21st at Coral Beach on West Bay Road. Police say they responded to a call that the 65-year-old public figure had assaulted a staff member there. Cayman swimming sensation Olympian Sean Frazier was recently inducted into the University of Florida Athletic Hall of Fame. Frazier, who swam for the Gators from 2007 through 2010, recently received word that he will be inducted as part of the 2020 class. Football standouts Brandon Spikes and Tim Tebow are among the other athletes set to be inducted. Good afternoon, I'm Dion Anglin with your headlines in news elsewhere. The U.S. virus death toll has surpassed 50,000, and that's according to data from Johns Hopkins University in what is the world's deadliest COVID-19 outbreak. More than 3,000 deaths came in the last 24 hours, and there are now over 870,000 confirmed cases nationwide. But the U.S. still has a lower mortality rate than most European nations based on current case counts, as the White House task force has emphasized. And a leading disinfectant producer has issued a strong warning not to use its products on the human body after U.S. President Donald Trump suggested they could potentially be used to treat coronavirus. Reckitt Benckiser, which owns Lysol and Dettol, said under no circumstance should its products be injected or ingested. Today, Mr. Trump said he had made the comment sarcastically. Disinfectants are hazardous substances and can be poisonous if ingested. That's a wrap of your headlines. I'm Dion Anglin.
Social distancing is crucial for our community to get back to normal. And never before has communication been so crucial. Keeping in touch with family, friends, and up-to-date requires you to stay in touch. Green Turtle offers the solution for both. Download the Green Turtle app now. Top up yours or a loved one's phone with any mobile carrier in any destination in Cayman. Phones delivered to your home, and with the new rewards program, you can even redeem points towards a new phone and other products. Download the Green Turtle app today. Green Turtle is not only the future of mobile, but today it can help save a life. Hashtag Stay Home Cayman. Take a ride on the Green Turtle Express today. Download the Green Turtle app, the future of mobile, saving lives today.
Your 2 p.m. headlines brought to you by greenturtle.ky. Take a ride on the Green Turtle Express today. Download the Green Turtle app, the future of mobile, saving lives today.
Stay in touch with Radio Cayman for the latest in news and information.
Follow Radio Cayman on social media, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. Download the Radio Cayman app or log on to our website, www.radiocayman.gov.ky.
Radio Cayman, your voice, your choice, your radio.
Home, which should be a haven, can even be less of a safe space during curfew if someone is experiencing child abuse. If you or anyone you know is being abused, help is nearby. For emergencies, call 911. They will redirect your call to the relevant agencies. For general guidelines and inquiries, call the Multi-Agency Safeguarding Hub, MASH, at 1-800-534-2273 or 945-0545. Alternatively, email mash@gov.ky.
This is a public service announcement from your Radio Cayman, your community radio station. Here are some coronavirus prevention tips.
Home isolation means staying indoors and completely avoiding contact with other people. You need to do this if you have symptoms of COVID-19. If you are practicing home isolation, you should stay in a well-ventilated room with a window to outside that can be opened separate from other people in your home. Keep the door closed and use a separate bathroom from the rest of the household, if available. If you have to share these facilities, regular sterilization will be required. Consider drawing up a bathroom schedule for washing or bathing and have the isolated person using the facilities last.
For the latest updates and information, please visit hsa.ky/public-health/coronavirus or gov.ky/coronavirus.
Talk today.
But I do have some questions.
Talk today.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners participation program.
Talk today.
Because there are more questions than answers.
What the public is saying.
Waiting to take your calls right now. Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Hey, good afternoon and welcome back to Talk Today. Just a quick reminder, we are going to the daily press briefing. When it starts, we'll join that. So if we are mid-sentence and we leave to go to do that, please understand. It's our endeavor to ensure that you don't miss a word. But joining me, excellent company and counsel of Patrick Schmid. Hey, thanks very much, man. I really say that. Appreciate it very much. And to Miss Susan especially, having to kind of balance everything inside the studio plus, what I'm doing out here. So Patrick, can't be easy always, huh?
No, definitely not. I wouldn't want her job.
She does the heavy lifting, man. That's why she has the muscles.
I probably couldn't do it anyway.
Well, listen. Go ahead.
No, you please.
Where was I before the break? Oh, I something lost.
I believe we were talking about a number of things, but in particular, how we go forward ensuring that we take the good and leave the bad collectively.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, man.
In essence.
Okay, and this notion, again, I was trying to, the person sent back a message saying, apologies, I had this composed, I planned to send it to you, earlier. But it's a lot of information here, and I'm grateful that this sort of speaks to what I was saying earlier. As a people, the greatest thing we can do is to think, ask questions, comment, share our opinions, but from a constructive, informed, respectful, respectable way, so that it encourages other people to read it and to likewise comment. And that's going to bode well for us at the end of the day. I was just thinking, as I read this thing during the break and was trying to go through more of it, one of the challenges probably that we're facing now is that we're recognizing this isolation. That in itself is not a word that we like, right? We put prisoners and misbehaved people in solitary confinement. We put, people who we want away from society in lockdown. We got to be careful with the words and how we are now conditioned as a result of this, right? And we come back to our elderly. We need to make sure that we're constantly checking on them, that they're seeing the familiar faces of the people, their families, and the like. And it may be that as a community, we look at our leadership and we draw alongside, and we're very cognizant of the need to not just respect the rules and the protocols, but then we're not like sheep being laid to slaughter and accepting of things that make little or no sense. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and it just won't happen that way. I mean, there'll be some people that will, and there'll be some people who will not continue to just simply, abide by everything that's said. And I'm not suggesting that they should be contrarian or exercise, for want of a better term, conscientious objection. But what I'm saying is that the government continuing to lead from the front should indeed set the precedent by making it easy for people to continue to comply, by making it easy for people to understand, by making it easy for us to continue to interact so that we feel normal or as normal as possible in the circumstances.
And I think this you're right, man. And this is where I think it's going to be great for many of us to recognize that we all have a role to play to varying degrees at varying times. And again, I just go back to the comment, or one of the many comments in the, I don't want to call it the epistle, but that's probably one of the longest articles or comments that I've received in a couple of days that are links to other stuff. the writer took an inordinate amount of time to prepare a considered opinion, and I'm very, very grateful to it because it is a person's perspective, right? But the two things that I just mentioned, the civil contingencies authority referencing what Guernsey is doing, and then the notion that the banks, for instance, showing this corporate responsibility and citizenship and saying, hey, what else can we do? Now, it's only for a period of time that any country or any company can continue to spend money, paying salaries, paying operating expenses, if they don't have something coming in, right? But if you're going to compound the interest of your people that you lent money to, and that's where you're making your profits, they now are no longer employed. Maybe there's a conscience there to say, well, you know what, let's just hit pause and reset, and in 3 months' time, we'll pick it up where we left off, right? And live to fight another day, as it were. Maybe that is something that for some, they finally discover that they have a conscience, and that thing that beats in their chest when they get overly excited isn't just to pump blood around the body, but it's actually to remind you that you're human. I don't know, maybe. What do you think?
And if they don't have a choice, that is to say, choices are remain in business, continue to make money, just that you're not going to make for these 2 or 3 years as much money as you would normally make, or don't remain in business. If it comes across in those terms, but perhaps a bit more politely, then I think that there is greater clarity in the minds of the persons leading those institutions as to what they have to do. But it wouldn't be unprecedented because, how many times have we not known countries to have to reset their national debt, such as, I don't want to name out particular countries, but some countries in South America, massive countries with huge amounts of resources, have had to completely reset and have had to ask institutions to write off millions and billions of dollars of public debt in order for them to have a jab at making their economy work again. So that wouldn't be
exactly. No, but even in this particular instance, what has transpired for the most part, right? Because of actions of elected governments, not the actions of individuals. So they just use mortgages, residential mortgages, for instance. We'll pick this up. Mr. Schmid, Ms. Susan is saying we're going to go to the live press briefing. So thank you for your time, sir.
Thank you.
Okay, to everybody else, please stay tuned. We'll continue this discussion. Now is the press briefing.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to our Friday coronavirus press briefing. I'm Donna Bush. Welcome to everyone who's joining us on the channel via our social media platforms as well as via Radio Cayman. We begin with a prayer from Pastor Chris Mason.
Let us pray. Eternal God, amid all the turmoil and changes of the world, your love is steadfast and your strength never fails. In this time of uncertainty and distress, be to us a sure guardian and rock of defense. Guide the leaders of our nation with your wisdom. Comfort those in distress, and grant us courage and hope to face the future. God of compassion, be close to those who are ill, those who are afraid or in isolation. In their loneliness, be their consolation. In their anxiety, be their hope. Be in their darkness, be their light. Through Jesus Christ, our Savior and Lord, we pray. Amen.
Amen. Now we welcome our panelists, His Excellency the Governor, the Honorable Premier, and the Honorable Minister of Health. Also joining us in our studio are the Chief Medical Officer, as well as the Director of HMCI, and of course our sign language interpreter. And joining us via Zoom, we have members of the media, as well as the Medical Officer of Health, Dr. Samuel Williams Rodriguez. Now we go to Dr. Lee.
Good afternoon. There are a further 154 tests to report today, 4 of which are positive, 2 are connected with previous positive cases, and 2 are community acquired. These results date to samples taken up to the 21st of April. That brings our total to 70 positive, of whom 33 are symptomatic, 22 asymptomatic, 6 of whom are admitted, 4 at the Health Services Authority, which is an increase of 1, and 8 of whom are recovered. I wanted to say I'm very sorry that the results are not yet available for the people who were on the British Airways flight over a fortnight ago. I realize it's exceedingly disappointing for you, and I really appreciate your patience. The explanation, there is an explanation. It's never good to be on the end of disappointing news, but the explanation is that we've had to move from an automatic process for part of the management of the results to a manual process, and that's put quite a strain on the system. It's made us a lot slower at being able to process the results. Your results are the next that should come off the conveyor belt for the results. I'm hopeful that they'll be available later today, and we will share them with you as soon as we can. It could be tomorrow, but I'm hopeful it might be later today. So apologies from me and apologies from everybody at Public Health for that inconvenience. I'm pleased to report that Doctors Hospital are now able to test, and they've started testing people. So there's a lot of good news all around today, and I think there'll be more from the panel later on. Thank you, Donna.
All right, thank you very much, Dr. Lee. We should also mention that the Commissioner of Police is not with us today. He will be joining us, as he mentioned, once a week going forward. So we now move on to the panel, starting with our Honorable Premier.
Thank you. Hello, everyone. I think everyone is aware that we had a very eventful meeting of the Legislative Assembly yesterday, and indeed the day before. And we were able to pass all of the pieces of legislation that we needed to pass to ensure that we are able to respond effectively to the crisis, the economic crisis that we are facing. These bills were all dealing with the social and economic consequences of the pandemic that we are struggling with. So we got through the National Pensions Law the amendment. We got through the amendments to the Immigration Law. We got through the amendments to the Customs and Border Control Law. We got through the amendments to the Traffic Law. And I think we are now in a good place to be able to ensure that we can, as far as possible, allow people access to more funds from their pension accounts, that people are able to license their vehicles, that we were able to put in place an amnesty for people who, because of the circumstances, have been unable to regularize their immigration status in the country. And I think now we are in generally a good place there. The results of the recent testing I find encouraging. There are only 4 positives, and 3 of those are connected to previous cases. I think that is very encouraging. I think the results over the course of the next week or 10 days will be very telling, and will certainly help shape what the rest of the response, or the next response of the government will be to the crisis. I'm hopeful, as I keep saying, that if the results continue as favorably as they have recently, that we will be able to, in relatively short order, start to ease some of the restrictions, and certainly particularly in relation to Cayman Brac and Little Cayman, which continue to have very, very encouraging results.
Okay. Thank you. Premier McLaughlin, Your Excellency.
Yes, thank you. Thank you very much, and good afternoon, everybody. Like the Premier, I'm also greatly encouraged by those results. I think that does show that, again, our strategy is working, and as we now ramp up testing, we do, as the Premier says, have an opportunity to really see what this looks like as we start to think about what comes next. But I think we can have hope and some reassurance that we're in as good a place as we could be. And I do also want to add my thoughts to the people who are in our isolation centre. I know this is very difficult, and just to say that we are very grateful to you all for your continued patience. Secondly, today, I just want to say that in terms of how we get supplies in to help our testing system, about a week ago, we were not in such a good place and extremely concerned that we wouldn't be able to get the supplies in. We haven't said very much on that in recent days, but a lot of work has been going on, and I'm really pleased to say today that we're now very confident that we do have sufficient swabs and extraction kits either already here or coming very soon to be able to really step up this massively important testing program. And today I want to pay tribute particularly to Dawn Cummings at HSA and also Matthew Forbes in my office, because between them they have done a huge amount on this. And my office is particularly focused on the extraction kits and the swabs. Dawn is involved in all sorts of PPE orders. And as an example of the UK's diplomatic network really supporting us, our consulate in Guangzhou in China did fantastic work for us on swabs, lobbying the Chinese Foreign Ministry and working with FedEx to get a delivery of swabs to us. So I think that is all really welcome. Just on flights and evacuations, I think I can say today, I think you'll all be aware, we have a second flight to Miami on the 1st of May. The first flight sold out very quickly in under 2 hours, so there are still some spaces and seats available on that flight. I'm also pleased today to announce that we are working very closely with the Mexican government, and there will be a flight to Cancun, Mexico next week to take back Mexican nationals. So if you wish to go on that flight, please do contact or email emergencytravel@gov.ky and register. We're also in good shape on the British Airways Airbridge, which comes in on Tuesday. We have about 57 people returning on that flight at the moment. It's bringing in needed extraction kits and swabs, and the UK security team. I also want to sort of say to people that if you are on that flight, you can take 2 23-kilogram pieces of hold luggage rather than one. So I hope that is a welcome announcement. I'm also pleased to announce that we have a new online form for the emergency travel helpline, and you can upload your details directly onto this form, and we'll put details of that out on social media after this. I've also been asked just to underline that if you have work permit issues, do not contact the emergency travel hotline. That's not for work permit issues. They should go to work in the normal way. So I just wanted to make that clear. And then finally, I want to do a shout out today also to the Attorney General and the Solicitor General and the legal drafting team. The Premier himself has also thanked them, but the Attorney General is also my legal advisor, and I get excellent support and advice from him, and they have continued to provide high-quality legal advice while continuing to deal with ongoing court cases, and they've done a truly wonderful job on helping us with the COVID-19 regulations and amendments. So a big thank you to them.
Thank you, Your Excellency. Minister of Health.
Thank you, Donna. Good afternoon, everyone. Grand Cayman, Cayman Brac, and Little Cayman, and all our Caymanian diaspora listening in. I want to say thanks to Sharda for the scriptures sent from Psalm 61 and Philippians 4. Hear my cry, O God, attend to my prayer. From the end of the earth I will cry to you when my heart is overwhelmed. Lead me to the rock that is higher than I. I am not saying this because I need anything. Over the years, I've learned to be content with whatever I have and to live with the circumstances in which I find myself. I know from my experience what it's like to be in extreme need and also what it's like to have more than I need. I've learned the secret of being happy wherever I am. whether hungry or well-fed, whether I have little or much, I can do anything through Christ who gives me strength. Philippians 4. The translations today, in our efforts to have people stay home, please stay home in Hawaiian and Samoan. In Hawaiian, it's I ulu ulu I noho maka hom. And Samoan, it's fa amol imole nofo I le fake. Thank you. That was close. I wanted to give a shout out to the Cayman Islands Monetary Authority and their hardworking team and leadership. I thank you, SEMA. Also want to give Ms. Delva a shout out for making the clips for the HSA medical staff to ensure their masks are fastened properly, at the same time comfortable. I thank you very much, Ms. Delva. Also wanted to shout out the physicians and the nurses assisting with the flu clinic. You're doing a wonderful job. Keep it up. God bless you. Also, we're still having my little pet peeve of problems with the banks. That concern is still there, and we may have to act on that in terms of comfort for persons attending the bank nowadays, and the hours being so short and the locations being so only one location. Also, I've been getting a lot of messages from persons who are having trouble with the strata, and stratas are foreclosing on persons at this time in a crisis. I don't know who would be so heartless at a time like this, but we definitely need to look at the strata titles law. Over the past 2 weeks, I have highlighted the work of many teams and individuals across the healthcare industry to ensure we have required resources to provide safe and effective care to any resident impacted by COVID-19. While the work in collaboration between the Ministry of Health, the Chief Medical Officer, the Public Health Department, and the various teams in the private and public sector has been commendable, I want today to single out the equally important role of one of our key partners, the Health Insurance Standing Committee of the Cayman Islands Insurance Association. From the outset of the COVID-19 pandemic, the member companies of the health insurance industry have stepped forward in an incredible way through a range of initiatives. This includes participating in the daily NEOC meetings to ensure continuity of caring to their clients and the financial sustainability of the healthcare system, including a waiver of exclusions that would have prevented persons from receiving care required due to this pandemic, continuing dialogue regarding coverage of consultations via telemedicine with healthcare providers, expediting claim payments to healthcare providers on the front line, processing bills and claims electronically to ensure reimbursement payments are not interrupted. Many of these initiatives will come at significant cost to the health insurance industry, but it reflects their ongoing commitment to the health and well-being of their customers in the community, as well as the safety of people coming first. Myself, along with the acting chief officer, Ms. Nellie Pucci, the superintendent of health insurance, Mr. Mervyn Conley, and others in my ministry have been in discussions concerning how the government may be able to provide some level of support in regards to health insurance to those persons working in industries most affected by this crisis. We expect to present a proposal to Cabinet in this regard in the coming week. Basically, if premiums are not paid, then the insurance companies will not be able to pay claims. And if persons aren't able to pay the premiums, insurance companies will not be able to provide the level of coverage long term. As I said, the Ministry, the Health Insurance Standing Committee, and various stakeholders are currently looking into various issues, and a further update will follow. I've also heard of many of the insurance companies finding ways of supporting clients, as well as first responders, and I want to publicly commend the industry for their proactive approach in this regard during this public health emergency. On another note, we continue to use this forum to inform the public on the vital information related to COVID-19 disease, and I will be working with the HSA and Public Health to offer general information on the various services still available at our facilities. Today we want to highlight the Family Planning Clinic. Sessions have been reduced but available through the week as needed. Phone consultations are also being done by doctors to address all family planning concerns and to answer any questions people may have in this regard. I understand that missed appointments are also promptly being rescheduled. All family planning methods continue to be offered, such as injectables, intrauterine device, subdermal implants, oral contraceptive pills, and condoms. I'm also told that persons categorized at high risk or challenged patients are strictly followed up with and accommodated as needed. In addition, the clinics are still being run from 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. using the same surname alphabetical system to which you're all aware. The reason for this reduced service is in keeping with the social distancing requirement. We're also accommodating essential workers outside of clinic hours as needed. Just want to thank our medical teams again for all their hard work and all their perseverance. We appreciate you all. Remember, unless you must go out for essential tasks, we are asking you to stay at home, as staying home does save lives. Thank you, and God bless.
Thank you, Minister Seymour. We're going to move now to the media, and I believe they're first set of questions.
If you don't mind, I have two short announcements I've been asked to make.
Absolutely, Premier McLaughlin.
One is from the Ministry of Education, which is reiterating some of the previous announcement made. The Ministry of Education, Youth, Sports, Agriculture and Lands have announced that under the advice and with approval of the Cabinet, all educational institutions will remain closed for the duration of the 2019-2020 academic school year. This decision is a result of the current and potential impact of the COVID-19 coronavirus to the Cayman Islands. Educational institutions include all early childhood care and education centers, nurseries, preschools and daycare, infant, primary and secondary schools, tutoring centers, technical and vocational institutions, colleges and universities. As the academic year is still in effect, all schools, that is all compulsory education institutions, are expected to continue distance learning. And then a really nice announcement, an acknowledgement. Some of our elderly were surprised this week when they shopped between 7 a.m. and 8 a.m. Our electricity provider in Grand Cayman, CUC, arranged to pay for their groceries at 2 supermarkets this week. We understand that this goodwill will be extended at another supermarket next week. On behalf of the government and everyone, I believe, thank you, CUC.
Yes.
Thank you very much, Premier McLaughlin. We're going to call on Dr. Lee as members of the media have some questions for him, and then we'll move to the rest of the panel. Let's begin our question and answer session with Wendy from CNS.
Thank you, Donna. I have a couple of questions for Dr. Lee. First of all, the test results today, I just want to clarify, these were all test results that would have been done under the old PAHO criteria. So, or either there were connections or they're not any of the screening tests yet.
No, there's some screening tests mixed in there.
Oh, right. Okay. Are you able to say if any of the screening tests were the positive ones?
I haven't been provided. Oh, no, they weren't, but I can tell you that. But I haven't got a disaggregation of them, but I know that the positives weren't any of the screens. Yeah. But there weren't there weren't very many screens in there, so I understand that the public, really want this information, so we try to give it to you as fast as we can. By giving it to you very fast, you get an advanced copy that wouldn't be normal. You'd normally get it going through several layers of processing, but we give it to you fast because you want it fast.
Right.
The sorts of figures you want often take a little while to digest. They need to be put into an Access database and then filtered, and then the answers can come out, which is why the answers that you think I should be able to give are often delayed by some time until I can provide them. But that's the reason, is that you're getting the raw figures rather than the processed ones, which take a finite length of time, and somebody needs to sit down and make sure it's correct before the information's given out. I hope that explains a little bit about that process.
Yeah, no, I understand perfectly, and I understand what you're saying. So, and yes, the issue is everybody's sort of chomping at the bit to get to these screening figures because of the importance of what they'll tell us. So at this point, now that we've also got the doctor's hospital doing tests, do you have a rough idea of actually how many of these screening samples have now been taken that we're waiting for?
We've got there's several hundred screens that have been taken.
Yeah, but you said 700
they're not the priority at the minute. We're trying to prioritize. We are prioritizing clinical tests and tests of people who are positive contacts and so on. So the screens will always get put to the back of the list, but for understandable reasons. So the next we're really trying to push through the British Airways flight to get them released at the minute. And having, as Governor's announced, that the automatic kits have arrived on island as of, I think, this morning, that will really help push that process through. And I suspect, I'm not asking them to, but I suspect there'll be work over the weekend to try and get the result, get through some of the work.
Okay, great. The other question relates to the situation surrounding quarantine. We've heard now that the quarantine hotels are pretty much full. Now, obviously, one assumes that some of those, but quite a lot of those British Airways people will leave, but we don't know for sure how many there will until you get the tests, of course. And then we have the situation where we've got at least another 69 people coming in next week on the British Airways flight. So have you got room for quarantine?
Yes.
For quarantining people?
Yes.
And are there other hotels that are stepping up, as it were?
We have plenty of capacity to manage those. The NEOC monitors that figure all the while, and we're not concerned about the people coming in on Tuesday. We'll be able to find them place.
Okay, great. My final question relates to the whole testing, the testing numbers. We're getting a lot of people who don't understand how it is that if you've got 100,000 test kits, and obviously you need to test a person more than once, if we are to test every single person or virtually every single person on the island, that is enough. So can you just reassure the public again that the number of tests we've got would, if we wanted to fulfill the Premier's goal of testing everybody, it would be possible to do that? Or if indeed it is possible, feasible at all.
Premier is shaking his head here.
Wendy, I've said many times we have more than enough kits to test everybody. I didn't say we were going to test everybody.
I think one of the other issues is Wendy, is that what we would, we may actually not, for example, if we're planning to send a large group back, or if a large group goes back, we may actually do a survey, a survey of that group to get some sort of feel for the positivity rate, rather than necessarily testing that entire group. We also have, we also have to bear in mind, yes, you've seen there is a throughput issue. You can't, even if you can do 200 to 300 a day, it takes a finite length of time to work through that to get to 100,000. And these kits are going to expire at the end of the year. So you have to bear that in mind as well. We don't want to have expiring kits. We'd prefer to pass them on to somebody else who can use them rather than have them expire in our freezer.
So we can get this confirmed that we have enough test kits to test everyone is just a comment from the Premier and not an actual aim or goal.
It's certainly not an aim that we currently have on our books. I mean, the reason to do that is for that type of testing is not clear. I mean, it would be perhaps more interesting to test everybody using the immunoglobulin test to see whether people have had the disease or haven't. That would be a more interesting place to go, I think. Because of the nature of the PCR, only telling you the answer at that moment in time, and the moment after that, you could become positive, if you see what I'm saying. Whereas because the immunoglobulin test gives you a historical perspective, it's telling you you've had that test, you've had COVID at some point. That's a more valuable piece of information. And we will get to be able to do the immunoglobulin testing. You've probably seen that in the United Kingdom, they are starting to do a survey using IgG testing. So they're going to get a feel for what it is in their population. They will have a much higher positivity rate than us. That sort of testing will be open up to us in due course, and then we'll be starting to do that. But that's a blood test, so people are going to have a needle.
Thank you, Dr. Lee. I appreciate that.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Lee. If we could just stay there for a moment, we have Reshma from the Compass who has a few questions for you. Reshma?
Thank you, Donna. Good afternoon, Dr. Lee.
Good afternoon.
My questions relate to the expanded testing regime that is now in progress. Can you tell us what are the plans for the sister islands? Are they going to be included in this expanded testing? And if any of the results that you shared today or the test that you spoke about today included the sister island samples?
Yes and yes. So they are going to be included in the expanded program, and some of the results were from the sister islands.
Would you be able to share what plans would be for the sister islands expanded testing regime?
So, I mean, they're having the same testing on Cayman Brac. They're having the same testing as we're having on Grand Cayman. So at the moment we're in phase 1. All of the frontline healthcare workers are being tested. There's no prison there, but the prison population is being tested as part of phase 1. Phase 2, which will probably overlap with phase 1, is much broader and is seeking to test everybody who is currently working and facing the public. So people like supermarket workers, the police, social workers, that group, and that phase will partially start fairly soon. In that phase, we're also likely to test the whole of Little Cayman because there are such a small community and very well isolated, even more isolated than Cayman Brac. That is the plan at the moment. Phase 3 is a much more expanded program, which has not been exactly elucidated, but is likely, as I mentioned just now to Wendy, going to be a more of a sample program, like taking a sample from a large group who may be allowed out back to work earlier than the whole of the population.
Okay, thank you for that, Dr. Lee. Now, I didn't hear in there any plans for expanding testing to include the elderly homes. You know, that is one of the vulnerable groups.
They're being done. I didn't say it explicitly, yes, but they're in phase 1. So yeah, we will be working through those.
Okay, great, thank you. Now, we've all seen the international news and the fears of a second wave of COVID-19 hitting various countries, in particular China. Can you say if Cayman is still in its first wave, or where are we in terms of that trajectory on the life of this pandemic? And are we preparing for possible second wave if we have completed our first wave?
The sea has been very calm around Cayman for the last few weeks, and that has been the same in the disease process, it's been relatively calm. I don't think we've had any waves. We've had a few ripples, to use the analogy, because we've been suppressing so hard and from such an early period during our experience of this, which is what's kept it relatively calm, I believe. It is possible there's something that's region-specific, because if you look across the other Caribbean territories, many of them have not had the explosion that the people in the northern, colder hemispheres have been suffering. So it's possible there's something region-specific. I hope we never have to have a wave. That's what we're trying to avoid. That's what the Premier has said and the Governor has said, the Minister of Health have said. We really want to avoid, because that will bring with it a lot of people who get very sick. That's what we're trying to avoid. So we're still in suppression, which is about not having any waves at all. So we're not in wave 1, we're not in wave 2, but we could get a wave. And that's the concern, that when we unlock, the wave will come, which is why we're going to be watching very carefully, and also seeing what the results show us when we start to do this testing. Because if there's not a lot of disease out there, well, it could show two things, actually. Sorry to go on, but it could show there's a lot of disease out there. That would be interesting, but it just hasn't appeared in the hospitals, and that's very interesting for Cayman. The other thing it might show is there's not a lot of disease out there. It'll show one of those two things. But either way, as we've said, the proof of the pudding is in the eating. We have not had lots of people flood our hospitals and push them to overcapacity.
Okay, great. Thank you very much, Dr. Lee.
Dr. Lee, I have a number of questions from the public, but I'm going to ask you one very specifically now. This one relates to the testing. When adults are tested, are kids tested the same way? Because yesterday we had the conversation with the doctors, and who told us that our youngest case was a 14-year-old. So is the testing different for adults and children?
It's the same.
It's the same, even very young children.
There have been babies who've had it done too, yes.
Oh dear, okay.
Because there have been a few that have needed to have the test done for one reason or another. So yes, they have.
Okay, thank you very much for that answer. We're going to move now to the panel. Members of the media, we're going to go to Wendy at the Cayman Compass. Wendy, please go ahead with your questions for the panel.
You mean Wendy at Cayman News
Cayman
Service?
News Service,
I don't
sorry,
think
CNN.
I don't think the Compass would want me. Actually, the first question I have for the panel, it would really have been for the Commissioner, but I don't know what else to do with this question now because it's kind of mounting. The dump truck situation. Why are there so many dump trucks on the road? Is anybody able to say?
The only dump trucks that should be on the road are those who are working on the airport runway rehabilitation project.
So we have no explanation then for literally the significant number of dump trucks that I think everybody will agree. If you go out, the first thing you see is a dump truck.
Well, there may be significant numbers of dump trucks working on that project. I don't know that level of detail. All I'm saying is, as far as I'm aware, nobody else has permission to be operating dump trucks.
Okay, thank you. Actually, Donna, can you pass to someone else whilst I just recheck the remaining list of questions?
Sure, no worries. Reshma?
Thank you.
From the Cayman Compass.
Thank you, Donna. My first question was to the Governor in relation to the repatriation flights. You talked about the Mexican flight today. We saw that the Jamaican government has now opened up to allow the re-entry of nationals. I know the last time we touched on this issue, you said there were some challenges. Has any further discussions been had with the Jamaican government to open up borders to allow flights from Cayman to take Jamaican nationals back home?
I think it's all I want to say at the moment is that discussions are underway, but as we've emphasised regularly, this is quite challenging in a number of different areas with a number of different countries. And as soon as we've got something firm to report, we will. But it's best not to get into too much detail on that just now.
Okay, fair enough. This question has been one that has been coming from some Indian nationals in particular who are asking for an update on the discussions you had shared about UK visa waivers should their borders be open and they need to transit through the UK. They're worried that because they don't have the visa, it may pose a challenge for them. Can you provide some guidance or update on that particular issue?
Yeah, sure, Reshma, and we do understand that is a big concern for a lot of people. I mean, it's as much about the airlines because the airlines have to be certain that people have onward bookings. So we're speaking to the UK, and we can try and get flexibility, but until people can show they have onward bookings and tickets to go somewhere else from London, then there's not a lot the UK can do, and the airlines as well. So it just remains very challenging, and we'll have to look at this sort of case by case. I think what would really help at some point with some of the large groups of foreign workers here is if their governments were able to arrange charter flights, and if we could link up charter flights from, say, India or the Philippines in London, we would be able to work through the transit visa issues. But that's a really complex and difficult logistical issue. And of course, at the moment, India's borders are closed. No Indians can go back to India. So, our hands are tied on that at the moment.
Okay, thank you. This question is for the Premier. We've been receiving reports from individuals who are trying to access their pensions, and they're being told that their employers have not been up to date on their contributions. What sort of recourse is available to them, or is government, say, beefing up the enforcement arm of the pensions regime to assist them in this regard?
Well, the law relating to them accessing their pensions was only passed yesterday by the Legislative Assembly. It's not in effect yet until His Excellency the Governor assents to it and it is gazetted. So I'm not sure why they would be attempting to access their pensions at this stage.
Well, I guess a lot of people are quite excited at the opportunity to access the pensions, so they're following up. But is there any guidance that you can provide for them, for those who are encountering this stumbling block?
If they have evidence or indication that employers have been essentially stealing their pensions contributions, then they need to make the report in the usual way to the department, and it'll be dealt with.
Okay, thank you. Today we saw the Chamber of Commerce release its employment stats and its projections for the number of unemployed, and they're predicting 10,000 jobs being lost by the end of the year. And basically, they don't think that the pension funds will be sufficient to assist people in covering that financial hardship. Are there any plans by government to maybe consider some sort of unemployment benefit to assist workers to supplement their finances in the interim?
We've already put in place, and it's being activated, a program for those people who need financial assistance to go through the Department of Children's Services, specifically NAU. That program is still in place. We've extended assistance to people who are not Caymanian but who are struggling with unemployment. So we've already have these mechanisms in place. We've now just put in place access by people to more than 25% of their pensions, because it's 10,000 plus 25% of what remains. So there will still be 75% of people's pensions remaining. So I wouldn't get too far ahead of ourselves in trying to plan for what's going to happen in 8 or 10 months. None of us really know where this is all going to end globally, let alone in Cayman. But I think we are putting ourselves in a very good place for the next 3 or 4 months to make sure that people have actual money in their hands. And if the projection is right, that this is about $500 million to be injected into the Cayman Islands economy, that is, I think, going to make a significant difference, particularly if the testing produces the sort of results that we are starting to cautiously be optimistic about. We will be able to reopen various aspects of the Cayman economy and start to have money circulating and keep people employed and businesses alive. The government has also produced a plan which will amount to about $15 million to help small businesses. and we're constantly looking at ways that we can continue to assist. But for us to get to a point where I, as Premier, can say that every unemployed person in Cayman is going to get 80% of what they used to get, we're not there. Government doesn't, and we're not going to get there. Government doesn't have the financial resources. The Cayman Islands government does to do that.
Okay, thank you. I'll give way to my colleagues. I still have a couple more questions.
Okay, I have a few questions from the public. The first one relates to the pension holiday. Premier McLaughlin, if for those who are listening that, can't read the laws or don't quite understand the changes that have been made, could you just explain the pension holiday to persons? Also, if you could answer this question, if an employer, for some reason, does not consider or take part in the pension holiday and are forcing their employees to still continue paying into their pension, what penalties could they face, if any?
Okay, the first question is that once the law was passed yesterday, once it comes into effect, it will take effect retroactively to the 1st of April, which essentially means that the pension contributions by employer and employee from May going forward will not need to be paid for 6 months. It is a pension holiday, it's automatic. You don't have to apply for it. It simply means there is no longer any legal obligation on employer or employee to make those usual monthly contributions to your pension. If an employer and employee wish to continue making them, that is perfectly fine, but they will be treated as voluntary contributions. Because it's voluntary, the employee can't force the employer to do so, and the employer can't force the employee to do so. So if an employee says, I don't want to make voluntary contributions, the employer has no legal right to deduct the usual 5% from the employee's salary.
Okay, that's very clear. So I know you mentioned sometime this week that
penalties. I don't remember the details of the penalties, but they are. I don't have the law. Oh, I do have the law. What am I saying?
Okay.
Just let me check.
Sure, no worries. Thank you very much, Premier McLaughlin.
I forgot I had this.
Yeah, I think it'll be very helpful for you to explain to persons who are listening.
Maybe we can get on with another question, and when I have a break, then I'll look rather than this dead time. Right?
Yeah, no worries. Yeah. So we've been hearing talk of the U.S. leader saying that they're going to open up U.S. borders, and I know that you said that we won't be following anything that the U.S. does. But the question is, how do you think that could affect us and our economy if we decide to open up locally? What could it help us? Could it hurt us with them opening?
Well, I think that the U.S., the federal government and some of the states are courting real death and disaster. And that sadly, in 4 to 6 weeks, they're going to see massive spikes in the number of cases and much more death. But that's their call. So I wouldn't place a great deal of store in us believing that somehow them reopening is going to have some magical impact on the local economy, especially as long as our borders are closed. We still, the U.S. is a great friend, has always been of the Cayman Islands, and a place where all of us go for just about everything. So never for one moment do I want anyone to think that I am bad talking the U.S. It's just that I believe, as do many other people, that the federal government and some of the state governments are making some massively bad decisions that are having absolutely terrible effects on the health and well-being of their people, but that's their call.
Okay. I'm not sure you'd be able to answer this question, but I'm going to ask it anyway because it's a big one for a lot of parents. They're asking, okay, now school is closed for the rest of the school year. Is it being considered that maybe students will have to repeat the school year? Because when you take in the Christmas holiday and all the holidays in between, they haven't had a lot of time in school for the year. Is this something that might be considered that they repeat their school year?
Well, I know both the private schools and the public school system are striving to deliver quality education every day. Quite how successful that is, I think, is still to be judged. I haven't heard any discussions or had any discussions with the Minister of Education or anyone else about essentially a policy decision being taken to write off the year and start all over, because that has all sorts of other implications as well. But I wouldn't put it beyond question. I think proper assessments will have to be done, and all schools are not the same. You know, some schools are better at delivering it than others. I mean, I'm just being frank about it, and so I'm sure those discussions will continue to go on. But we'll have the benefit of this summer break to be able. This is getting towards the end of April now, and schools generally resume the end of August, early September. I am hopeful and optimistic that we would be able to restart school if things play out the way that we're all hoping. And you know, I've been quite. A lot of people have said I've been very pessimistic about this, and so when you hear me starting to feel or actually express some optimism, I think you can place some store in it.
Thank you, Premier McLaughlin. Your Excellency, folks out there would like to know where the fundraising, the private sector fundraising program or initiative is, if we have any information on that.
Yes, I mean, I think that's a matter for the individuals involved in that, but I am aware that discussions are progressing in a very positive way, and I think next week there will be an announcement, which is something that both the Premier and I really welcome at this time, having the private sector step up. But there will definitely be more on that next week.
Okay. While our Premier looks up for the penalties on the pension holiday, we're going to go back to Wendy from CNS. Wendy, you have another question?
Yes, I do. Thank you, Donna. Appreciate that. This is one really that's come from the public, which has been going on for quite some time. The Premier did say some time ago now that he didn't think there was anything that government could do regarding the landlord and tenancy issues that we're having, because people are getting evicted and are fearful of eviction. And whilst the pension obviously will be helpful for a lot of people to enable them to pay rent, because that's going to take a while to come, we're still getting a lot of people asking, is it not possible for government to put some kind of temporary suspension on the concept of eviction? Or is that just not within the legal parameters of what government can do?
Well, I mean, Parliament can do I wouldn't say do anything, but can do a lot of things. I mean, we could pass legislation that dealt with that, which is a fairly radical measure. But what I was saying is that the current legislative framework that we have, or the lack thereof, to be frank, dealing with landlord and tenant issues doesn't allow the government to do that. We'd have to create bespoke legislation to deal with it.
And is there any consideration, or do you not feel that it is too radical a move?
No, we've talked about it, but no, we haven't sort of taken any decision to move in that way, because, you know, landlords are strapped as well, and landlords have obligations as well. So there are two sides to this coin. I've said before, and I've always thought that the increasing surfeit of rooms, of apartments, should cause landlords to act reasonably and try to hold on to good tenants, if indeed there is real hope that they will have the means to pay them in relatively short order.
Okay. And the final question is really about the situation with the banks. Minister Seymour has said a few times that he would like to see something happen. Again, is that not something that can happen? I mean, Minister Seymour, you keep raising it, so I'm just wondering, what is it is there something government can do, or is this just purely a down to the banks not agreeing to change?
Well, we've had a number of discussions with the banks about this matter. The banks really don't want to open second branches because of the exposure, the increased exposure to their staff that necessarily involves. Not opening other branches, though, is creating a massive inconvenience for people, particularly those in the eastern districts, that in some cases have to come all the way from Northside or East End to Cayman Bay to get service at their bank. And so this is problematic. We are and have talked about possibly extending hours. What I would ask everyone for, though, is a little patience over the course of the next week or so as we see how these test numbers turn out. Because, quite frankly, if things go as well as I am and everybody else are hoping, we will probably start to see in relatively short order some significant adjustments to the shelter-in-place provisions, which I hope would allow access to more facilities and greater convenience to the general public without simply just returning to normal. Because if we're going to while we want to move in that direction, we have to do it very carefully and in a phased way, because, as I think all of us know, we don't want to repeat some of the lessons that are being taught in other places that have had relatively good success with containment of the virus.
Okay, thank you. Appreciate that.
I have a question for Minister Seymour. Minister Seymour, there's great concern amongst many people who are going to the supermarkets, the banks, as well as the pharmacies and so on and so forth to do their business on those given days, who are concerned that most of the people that are waiting in lines with them are not wearing masks. Are we any closer to making it a mandatory requirement?
Well, I'd say by next week. I was just informed today that the shipment I was hoping to deliver to the MLAs is coming in on Wednesday. So hopefully we'll be able to get those out before the next weekend and put a little bit more pressure on persons to wear masks.
Okay. I have a final question for Dr. Lee. Dr. Lee, we know that you've talked about healthcare workers, frontline workers, everybody on the front line being the first ones to get tested. Does this include those who are working in the restaurants that do delivery service, as well as those who are working in the supermarkets, the pharmacies, those areas?
Yes. All of these front-facing people that are dealing with the public are the groups that we're intending to test. In some circumstances, it's quite difficult to get hold of who may be able to collate the names and encourage the people to come forward for testing. And I have to say, the testing is we are asking people to be tested, but it's not a compulsory issue. We're not going to be forcing anybody to be tested in this way. Okay. But the more people are tested, the more helpful it is for us to know the true incidence. And I suspect a lot of people do want to know how they stand.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much, Dr. Lee. Any final words from our panelists?
Could I just say we've decided we won't be doing a press conference tomorrow and Sunday, and I think it is just worth underlining again. There are real grounds for sort of optimism and hope as we all go into the weekend, but we do need everyone to stick with this in terms of social distancing, staying at home, basic hygiene, and increasingly wearing masks in public places. I just want to finish very briefly on a lighter note. I just want to say on the steel pan that some of you will have seen, that I've been unbelievably amazed at the reaction to that. I think we've had over 50,000 views on social media, though my wife Lizzie was probably half of those. And I only have 3 tunes. One of them is Oh Christmas Tree, which I can't play, but I do have one other. So watch out over the next few days. There may be one more coming. And I've teamed up with Benny L. Miller and Chris Seymour, who are helping me with a remix with a little dubwise, as you say, around these parts. So
That'll be good.
Can't promise.
That'll be good.
We could turn the governor into Cayman before he's gone.
Yes.
Donna, just to answer your question, the maximum fine is $10,000 or 1 year's imprisonment.
Okay. Thank you very much. Minister Seymour, any
Is that for playing the steel pan?
Okay. All right. So with that, before we go, a reminder to everyone to go online to gov.ky/coronavirus for answers to your questions. Of course, we'd like to thank everyone who is involved in making this press briefing possible today and throughout this week. That means the public and, of course, the viewing public as well and the panel. Again, we invite you to join us here on Monday. We'll leave you now with a look at the regional and worldwide coronavirus statistics. Have a great weekend.